and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
This is a man who says he likes logic and reality, but when his defense is playing people out of position and allowing people to score at a rate at historical proportions, and said that he's got a good defense. All logic just went out the window. I'm done. Have a good day.
It did not go out of the window. It doesn't go out the window. All right, so he is actually done. There's Solomon Wilcots joining us. He is walking away. Thank you, Solomon. There's your level of emotional intelligence. There's Solomon Wilcots and apparently a doctor that has a heart monitor.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'm at a Thursday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Welcome in, Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards. Heading up until 2 o'clock the next 4 hours. We've got you. Talking some football today. That's right. Talking some football today. Talking football. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. 913-912-4810 to join us. Coming up an hour from now, we will talk with Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com. And the KC Laboratory podcast. We will hang out with Kent Swanson, which I think the last time we talked to him was when Matt Castle was the starting quarterback. I think it's been a while since we've had a conversation with Kent. Not sure. I need to go back and look when the last time and what the differences are, like what the feeling around the Chiefs team now versus, hey, the last time we talked to you. It's why I like the rotating with the guys from KC Laboratory Podcast, Craig Stout and Matt Lane and Kent Swanson, having those guys on, once a week and rotating them is because,
Well, I can tell you when the last time we talked to
I
him.
was almost there. I have
it was after the Jags game.
Okay.
Before the second Chargers game.
Okay.
So,
after that was November 13th, so it's been
a while.
A month and 2 days. So after the Jaguars game. That would have been November 14th.
The vibes around the defense are worse than they were last time we talked to Kent. That was shortly after it kind of felt like maybe Marquez Valdez-Scantling had really found his role. Well, it can change in about a month in football.
Yeah, that was that conversation was the hit on Juju Smith-Schuster. Cisco from Drew Hill that is now playing football. He's gotten much bigger in his time since performing. The interception with Cisco that it was like, out of all people, come on. Don't let that guy intercept it when he hits Juju and hits Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And it was at the Chargers. So we've seen what's happened since then. In L.A., against L.A., in Cincinnati, in Denver, they went 3-1 in that stretch. And you know what? At the beginning of the season, if you'd have said, hey, they're going to split the Chargers and Bengals on the road in the second half of the season, they're going to split those games, they're going to go 1-1, would you settle out of court right then? If you're at August 15th, right? Just like August 15th, random man on the street, diehard Chiefs fans, you can take it right now in L.A. against the Chargers and in Cincinnati. 2 games in 3 weeks, they go 1-1. Do you take it right now? And I wonder what the percentage of, there would be a number of people that would be like, no, I believe in this Chiefs team. I'll take my chances at going 2-0 as opposed to 0-2. And depending on who you beat, who you lose to, right? Because it'd be like, well, if they're 1-1, can I have the Chargers game because it's the division? And this might be a really tough, the streak of 6 straight might come to an end this year and definitely will not be done by week 15. They definitely won't win the division with 3 games to play. That will not happen. Not this year. No, sir. Not on my watch. Nope. No. Not in here. Not in my house. So I probably would have settled out of court at that time and said, I'll take 1-1.
Was that Dikembe Schwarzenegger there?
Yes.
I think.
Come on, do it. Do it.
No.
Bring it in the house. Come on. Do it. I'm right here.
I wonder.
Challenge at the block. Come on.
I wonder if.
No.
If we would have offered in the preseason, hey, hit the big red button. The Chiefs are the 2 seed or the 3 seed. Yeah. How many people take that? Because that for me would have really been the turning point.
Because if it was like, okay, the Chiefs are let's just say the 2 seed.
Yep.
Chiefs are the 2 seed right now. Do you take it? Like, I think Buffalo's the 1 seed anyway. I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl before the season started. Yeah, if it means that, that means they won the division.
Right.
And that means they'll be playing a home game in the first 2 weeks of the season, or first 2 weeks of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And then if Buffalo gets upset, guess what? It'd be 5 straight.
That's right.
If they don't, well, let's see what Mahomes looks like on the road in the playoffs.
Yep.
Because we haven't seen that yet. That's the next level. Hopefully we never do. Hopefully it never happens. But that is the next step of the progression of the career and the legacy of Patrick Mahomes is what can he do on the road in the playoffs? Because we know what Josh Allen did on the road in the playoffs last year, and he was brilliant. So was Patrick Mahomes. Burrow was they won the game. Wasn't really because number 9 was amazing and unstoppable on the field last year. But you know what? He went 2-1 in the playoffs, or 2 wins on the road, 1 win at home, so 3-0 in the playoffs. But 2 of those wins to the AFC were on the road. So he's the starting quarterback. You get that credit. You get the credit when you win, get the credit when you lose as well. So yeah, I would have taken it, and I would have taken 1-1 before the season. So that's where they're at. But as we talk about a lot, expectations change, things change, and as the season goes on and you get more data, we see what the Chargers are, we see what the Raiders are, we see what the Broncos are, and you're like, okay, well yeah, they should be winning this division. They should have it wrapped up with 3 games to play. They went 2-0 against the Chargers. They had an opportunity to beat the Bengals. And we've discussed a lot about turnovers taking place in these games. And they were on the verge of us talking about a late turnover against the Chargers on the road that cost them a chance of putting the game away and then losing, while that is actually what we talked about against Cincinnati. But that Nick Bolton forced fumble, which we got into yesterday, which jogged my memory of that Chargers game in which the Chiefs were up 23-20, driving with the ball. McKinnon fumbled. The Chargers get the ball right back, and you're like, well, then they're driving down the field. Here they go. They're at least going to get a field goal, and they may go up 27-23 at that point. Instead, Nick Bolton hits Keenan Allen. Ball comes loose. Chiefs get the ball back. And they win the game. What the Chiefs didn't do against Cincinnati after Travis Kelce was stop the Bengals either time. The next 2 possessions, touchdown, run out the clock. They did not. They did that against the Chargers. They won. They got the ball right back. The Chiefs won. They didn't do it against Cincinnati. And I guess if we're talking about 50-50 games, turnovers, a ball bouncing one way or another, you're on the road against 2 good teams late in the game. One game the ball bounces your way, the other game it doesn't. You win one, you lose one, and that's why you don't really want to be in close games as often as some teams are. And it can be the difference of winning in the playoffs or not. The Chiefs' margin of victory is so much smaller now than it used to be, to where they could fall behind 24-0 to the Texans. They could fall behind 10-0 and 17-7 to the Titans. They don't have to play a perfect game in the AFC Championship game in 2020. They had to play a perfect game in the divisional round against the Bills to move on. That margin of victory is slim, that those plays here or there, and I think that's part of the concern of the turnovers and whether or not that's going to stay around and hang around. But it can sometimes be as simplistic as that, but that's also not fun just to say, there's some fortune that takes place in games. And Nick Bolton put himself in the right position, swung his club at the right spot. Keenan Allen let the ball, hang out just a little bit, and it was a fumble, and the Chiefs were there to recover. They weren't there to recover against the Bengals. Sometimes it can be that easy.
And it sometimes it feels like luck, but a lot of the other times it is then what do you do after that moment? And to the point about the Chiefs' defense against the Chargers, to what Willie Gay was able to do against the Broncos. Some of the times where the defense was the one that could come in and stop the bleeding after the Chiefs gave the ball up, take the ball back yourself. That's one side of the coin. Also, not to make every conversation about being more aggressive on 4th downs, but it is the reason that conversation is an important one because it's the closest you can do to purposefully controlling your own turnovers and kind of putting that risk out there. It's why it's such a pivotal moment on both sides of the ball. It's both why Andy Reid doesn't want to go for it on 4th and 4 if he doesn't feel like he absolutely has to. Because if you don't get the ball there, you don't get the first down there, suddenly you have voluntarily committed a turnover, basically, at the risk of converting. But if you do convert that, now all of a sudden you have prolonged your possession, and it's basically just as good as, a muffed punt minus the yardage, I suppose?
Yeah.
So those margins, frankly, we don't talk about enough because it can be kind of random. It doesn't feel very predictable, and yet games flip on turnovers all the time. And for the Chiefs against the Broncos, again, that's the reason that game ends up falling on Mahomes. Even as he was stupendous, he's also the reason that game was close because he gave the ball back 3 times.
Well, here's another point to that. The Chiefs have turned the ball over since the bye. They have turned the ball over 3 times in the fourth quarter when the game was within a score.
Whew.
So 3 times so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. 6 games they've played. They've turned the ball over in the fourth quarter when the game was within a score. Chargers, Bengals, Broncos. Those fourth quarter turnovers. Chargers, McKinnon fumble. Chiefs get the ball right back on a turnover on that next drive. Cincinnati, Kelsey fumble. Defense doesn't get a stop either time that they get the ball back. Denver interception. Chiefs get the ball back on a turnover by an interception with Chris Jones hitting Rip and L'Jarius Sneed catching the punt. They won 2 of those 3. Which ones did they win? The one where the turnover didn't hurt them because the defense stepped up and got the ball right back and helped out the offense. Because you shouldn't be in a position to where you go, hey, offense, you got to be perfect. You can't turn the ball over ever because you're up 24-20. You are controlling this. You have come back. You're controlling this. Now, the reason you're in the position you are is because you were down 14-3. Don't fall behind 14-3, and maybe that being up 24-20 is being up 30-20 with the ball. And then the fumble doesn't hurt you as much, and then when you get the ball back after that touchdown, you're the one running out the clock, not the Bengals. So don't fall behind 14-3. But you also don't want to be in a position to where, okay, they're driving, one mistake can end the game for the Chiefs, and they're the ones up 4 because the defense didn't get a stop at that point the last 2 times. They had gotten stops a lot after those first 2 drives because the Bengals scored 27 points. They scored 14 in the first 2 drives. The rest of the game, they scored 13. Just happens to be those 7 were pretty darn big. And not getting a stop at the end, pretty big. So the turnovers can hurt you. When do they happen? What's the score? And then what does the defense do in return? That's how you get through the playoffs. Either don't turn it over or get the ball right back or create extra possessions for you so that turnover in the third or fourth quarter, you're up by a couple of scores and it may not be as magnified as the Bengals game, the Chargers game, and then the Broncos game. That could have been, if the Broncos go down and score a touchdown, we're talking about how did Mahomes cost them a win.
Can you imagine what this week would have been like?
Mahomes he put up 350 and 3. And he cost him the game against the Broncos?
If
We
Chris
would be hearing
Jones,
sad Chiefs fans and not Broncos fans later today.
That's a great point. But we are not.
Goodness, thank
because
God.
the defense got the stop.
If Chris Jones doesn't hit Brett Rippon, just make it that. Now, look, the Chiefs got the ball back, and their offense did the job they needed at the end. They were able to kill the game with a 4-minute drive, so maybe they could have went down and scored. Maybe. Or maybe Mahomes would have thrown his 4th pick. I don't really know. But you mentioning, what the stress that puts on the offense, we're just talking about margin for error. That's another thing that I just don't think we talk about quite enough in all of sports media collectively, where if you do enter a game as the better team, this might be the playing down to your competition sort of phrasing that we end up getting to. But whenever you are matched up against a team you're supposed to be 2 touchdowns better than, the little mistakes suddenly erase this huge margin that you may have felt like you came into the game with. Or you have, the Broncos game is the perfect example of this. The Chiefs gave themselves as big a margin for error as you could possibly imagine a football team doing, not just in the first half, through 17 minutes or something. No, it was more than that. It was 20. I guess it was about 27 minutes around the 27-point scored mark.
Yeah.
There were 3 minutes left in the half that was Mahomes' first pick. The pick 6 was scored with about 4.5 minutes left.
Yeah, because then the Chiefs got to stop.
So it was 26 minutes into the game. They were up by 27 points. That is an unlosable game, unless maybe you're playing against Patrick Mahomes. And then for a little bit, the Chiefs kind of were. Because he also erases that margin for error. I mean, that is just such a bizarre game that it's just another example, another data point of like how much turnovers can take a game that looks like an absolute blowout, and before you know it, you're tugging at your collar.
I mean, 34-0, we're having a completely different conversation. Instead, it's 27-7.
Yep.
34-7 at halftime, we might be having a completely different conversation. Instead, 24-14. And the Broncos get the ball to start the second half, and they go down and score. In what? 4.5, 5 minutes of football, the Broncos get 21 points of their 28. The other 55 minutes, the Chiefs give up a scoring drive.
Yep.
And the other 55 minutes. So for, 55 minutes, it was like the defense is fine. Okay, you're going to give up a scoring drive in the game to Russell Wilson. Shocker. Yes, okay.
Reasonable.
Yeah. The Broncos, I mean, they are professionals out there, too. They're going to score some points from time. They haven't been shut out for 5 straight weeks against bad teams, so they had one drive. But the rest of that, the defense was very good.
It also makes the conversation about the defense kind of funny, because that is a fun way of putting it. Is the defense, the Chiefs got outplayed in that game for 5 out of 55 minutes. 5 out of 55 minutes they got outplayed. And the final score was a 6-point game.
It's a very Chiefs way of going about it, where you're losing by a wide margin, and all of a sudden 5 minutes later, how in the world is this happening? Because we've seen Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs do that. I compared in the past the Chiefs to a college basketball team around here. KU famous for, those second halves. It's like, you're in Allen Fieldhouse. If you could just survive the first 2, 3, 4 minutes, all of a sudden it's like, well, you didn't. They went on a 10-0 run.
We're only down 4 at the half. This could be, and here we are 4 minutes into the second half. Kansas up by 19. Whoa, what? How?
You know what? Let's just take last Saturday. Even in Columbia.
Yeah.
Missouri got it to within like 11 with 2 minutes to play in the at the end of the first half. And then KU went on their dick and dunk offense for like the next 4 minutes, the last couple of minutes of the first half, and then came out on a 7-0 run to start the second half. All of a sudden, it's like 21.
Yeah.
Like, it was 2.5 minutes of basketball. How'd you, all of a sudden, you're down 23, 24. You were about, Jimmy Dykes was saying, just get it to single digits. You can get it. That's such an emotional boost, but you didn't. And the Chiefs are that to where it's like, in the past, we've seen this Chiefs offense or Chiefs team that, well, they're down 10, and all of a sudden, how are they up 14?
Right.
What just happened? That was less than a quarter of football, and it's get a stop, score, maybe a turnover, boom, score. You're putting pressure on the other team. They're starting to feel like things are slipping away. Then you're going to go and score, and it's like, what just happened? They just went on a crazy college basketball run. We haven't seen that as much because, again, margin for error isn't exactly as wide as it was in 19 and 20. Even in 20, when they go 14-2, they played all those close games, which got the famous Patrick Mahomes quote of "We're not winning games by enough." Apparently, that's a thing. Or that's a stat. We're not winning games by a wide enough margin. Apparently, that's a stat.
I'm sticking with this 5 minutes thing now because this is really wormed into my brain here. It took until Thursday, but I've got a new angle on Chiefs Broncos. I guess. I think that might be a little window into my soul for why I'm not as worried about the Chiefs defense as I could be.
Okay. Because
if you asked what is the most real version of the Chiefs defense, is it the 55 or the 5 in this game? In that 5 minutes, it's not just like, oh, it was only 5 minutes, because that meltdown will bleep up your season in the playoffs. 5 bad minutes of defense while your offense is also playing its worst 5 minutes can end your season.
5 bad minutes of defense while they're mixed in 2 turnovers.
Yes,
by the offense.
That will wipe you out.
Done.
But because it was directly sparked by the 5 worst minutes of offense, I do think it is at least noteworthy to circle that with a little asterisk and say, hey, we got to see what happens against the Texans. We'll see what happens the rest of the stretch in this regular season against some not great football teams. But I do think you put a little asterisk there and say it was a 5-minute meltdown on both sides of the ball. And then it was after that at least okay. A reasonable touchdown drive, some forced punts, and then a pick to take it away at the end of the game there. That angle of it makes me feel a little bit better about the defense not playing 60 minutes of bend and then break defense. It was 5 minutes of firework chaos. Everything's on fire. And then they hosed some of it down, had a few embers left, and ultimately did enough.
And Justin
It's
Reed,
an interesting angle on that.
and I thought interesting. Justin Reed said they let up.
Yeah.
That, it's a division opponent. You can't do that. We got back rolling again, but I don't know. Maybe they did let up. Maybe after Willie Gay scored that pick six, it was like ball game. Well, I can't even say that because they got the ball back to the offense after that.
Yeah.
They still got to stop and got the ball back to the offense, but it might have been you're not focusing just a little bit here or there. I don't know. It comes off as an excuse, but they gave themselves such a wide enough cushion at 27-0 that if you do lose focus and let up, if that is what took place, if that is a simple explanation, that those 5.5 minutes were, okay, that's what happens when you lose focus and you're not playing the way that you can play. Now get your head back in the game, get it out of your you-know-what, and start playing football again. And, of course, they ultimately did and gave up, 7 points outside of that. And the Chiefs only scored 7 more points offensively outside of that as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I do want to look a little bit more at turnovers. We can look at roster of this Chiefs team moving forward and even comparing to, some of the other teams. We'll talk with Kent Swanson coming up at 11 o'clock, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. We'll hear from the Chiefs coordinator day. Today, we will have Sad Fans and Reddit coming up in the noon hour, Sports or Leisure at 1 o'clock. Also hear from the Liberty Bowl executive director. I have no idea why. I'm not sure what he had to say. And then, there's some movement. Missouri State football in the news, along with Vegas and Barry Odom. Boy, there are a lot of connections.
What a Mad Libs game. What a Kansas City Sports Talk Mad Libs game.
A lot of connections. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
But real quick, I want to make it even worse, just for a brief second.
Excellent.
Story of your life.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I will continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll hear from Kent Swanson coming up at 11 o'clock, Chiefs Coordinator Day, 11:45 or so. Sad fans on Reddit today. Got some sports or leisure presented by Johnny's Tavern, talking some Chiefs football. Talk some other things as well with this Chiefs team as they head into the final 4 games of the season and a final 4 games against teams that should not offer much of an issue of wins or losses outside of maybe Vegas in Week 18 if they are still alive for the playoffs. Maybe at that point, that could be a tricky game. Other than that, the next 3 shouldn't be an issue, and really the next 4 shouldn't be an issue. Go win the game, scoreboard watch, see what happens when these other teams are battling and fighting and trying to, the musical chairs of their playoff hopes and their postseason hopes. And Chiefs will wrap up a postseason spot this weekend. The Eagles are the first team that is postseason eligible with their win last week. So they are in the playoffs, and the Chiefs are right behind them as well.
I've been a little spooked still by the Seahawks game. I know that's from like early MV Geno sort of stuff. But tonight, Thursday Night Football, you get to see what the Seahawks look like against Brock Purdy, I guess. So I wonder if tonight will be the time that I finally watch Seahawks football and go, yeah, this will be all right. This hopefully won't ruin our Christmas Eves around here. They kind of scare me a little bit, though. I don't know.
We'll see.
The MV Geno thing. You feel good about the secondary?
That defense might make him look like it.
That's what I'm saying.
They made Russell Wilson look good.
But also the Seahawks have been falling off for like the
Seattle
last
quarterbacks. Maybe that's the thing.
Wow.
Maybe that's the issue. Oh, no. Concern level now elevated for next week. Either one of these quarterbacks for Houston, have they played for Seattle ever?
Oh, boy, Driscoll might have.
Either of these quarterbacks? I don't know. Pick one. Couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
If the Bills really want to beat the Chiefs.
You can tell who Davis Mills is. He's the only one that's a giraffe.
He hasn't played in Seattle because there's never an incident with Davis Mills and the Space Needle, like colliding or anything. They never got confused for one another.
True.
That's mean.
No, that's fine.
The Bills really are serious about beating the Chiefs as they try to bring Matt Hasselbeck out of retirement. That's how you'll know that they have figured it out.
Yeah. So this Chiefs team against the Texans, and I don't know. I'll ask Kent Swanson what he wants to see. Like, what's he looking for? What does he want to see in this Chiefs game against the Texans? I don't know. Boring game,
Easy is all. Yeah. That's all. I'm looking for some smooth, free-flowing, not terribly. I'd like to forget about this game, much like the Rams game.
Yeah. You know what? Let's ask it this way. What part of the Chiefs team would you like to see have success against the Texans, given it is the Texans, but the opposite is true as well, that if a part of a Chiefs team that you'd like to see have success does not then have that against the Texans, now it's even more concerning. Is there position group, side of the football, specific player that stands out?
It's a funny question because it really implies, it's going to imply a lot regardless. Because I think my guess for this game is that maybe we finally see Isaiah Pacheco just get fed the ball pretty consistently through 4 quarters, and we just watch him be violent and explosive into this defense.
Which is fine because I'm on a bye week this week. I don't need McKinnon.
That's good. That's good. This is a McKinnon on ice week.
Yeah.
This is why you work so hard for that bye, though.
Rest him for Seattle.
So revenge game. I don't know. Former NFC West. I don't really have much for you there.
Gotta be.
I don't think the defense can prove a lot against the Texans. If they went out there and shut him out, I would say, hey, that's something. But what I'm more worried about is, like, what if Davis Mills throws for, like, 300 yards? Because now it's the inverse of what I was looking for.
Do the 300 yards come with 150 in the fourth quarter and everybody's resting because they're up 34-3?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, again, the dash.
I'd like
What
to
happens
see what happens.
between the dash?
Absolutely. I'd like to see some backups getting reps, or just like, hey, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, where's Najee Johnson? Get it, Brian Cook. Get on out there and get some live reps against basically the scout team.
Lamons, go do what you do.
Chris Lamons, go get some corner reps. We're gonna get you paid at some point. That I think would be a controlling win where everybody looks all right. Would be nice, obviously. But if I had to pick a spot, I guess if the pass rush just looked awesome,
Yeah.
that would maybe make me the happiest. But I'd begin wondering why that wasn't showing up anywhere else this season. All that. That's not totally true. They've had good production games.
Yeah.
They had 6 sacks against the Broncos, but a lot of it just sort of seems labored, and then I worry about how consistent that can be.
Is the second best pass rusher on this Chiefs team Steve Spagnuolo?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
Chris Jones and then Steve Spagnuolo. But I will point out, we talk about that Chris Jones play, and I think it was Nick Jacobs, KSHB 41, Eye in the Sky, that he does on, I believe, like Tuesdays after Chiefs games when the All-22 comes out. And the play that, Chris Jones hits Rippon and they get the interception. It was a really interesting breakdown because I hadn't looked at it this way, but Chris Jones is being double-teamed by the center and the left guard. The left tackle is blocking Karlaftis one-on-one. Karlaftis wins his matchup inside of the left tackle and almost has, a lane, which caused the left guard to slide from Chris Jones to help out and go get Karlaftis, which then Chris Jones tosses the center aside and goes and gets Rippon. If Karlaftis doesn't win, Chris Jones is still double-teamed by the left guard in the center, and who knows what happens on that play. That's what we've been talking about with, can he get just a little bit of help? That against the Bengals, there were multiple times where it looked like Chris Jones was close, but didn't get there in time because nobody else on the team won, and the double team was allowed to stay with him. Yeah. I had mentioned that the first third down of the game when he dropped it off to Samaje Perine, who picked up like 11 yards on 3rd down and 5. Chris Jones whips the left tackle. Michael Dana's being doubled by the center and the left guard. But he doesn't do anything. So then as Chris Jones is beating the left tackle, Jonah Williams, to the inside and is going to have a free lane at Joe Burrow, the left guard comes off and is able to put a shoulder and an elbow into Chris Jones, slowing him up for a half second, who then is going and hitting Joe Burrow right after he releases the ball. If Dana offers more of a threat, I think that's a sack. The Chiefs get off the field and you go, Chris Jones is pissed, and this is a Chris Jones-Bengals game. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
But it did against the Broncos because he got some help by Karlaftis winning and causing the double team to then switch to Karlaftis, who was the most immediate threat. It's like in basketball when you're, getting back on defense in a fast break. Well, who's the most immediate threat? The guy with the ball. And then after that, who's the most immediate? Well, if there's a guy down in the block, if I'm, the second defender, I got to go guard the bucket. Well, double team, most immediate threat is Chris Jones. Now it's George Karlaftis because he just won.
This is actually really fascinating. I hadn't seen Nick's view of this play before. Karlaftis really doesn't win. He looks like he's about to, though. It is not even.
I haven't seen it in a few days, so I watched it on Tuesday.
I had to scroll back through it there,
Yeah.
but it's kind of funny that this is totally irrelevant to this is just a little detail of it, but. You see Karlaftis kind of shows his shoulder,
that's right.
and the guard really overreacts.
Yeah,
he
he does.
lunges over at Karlaftis, slaps him, provides no further help.
That's true.
Karlaftis is the guard should have stuck with Chris Jones, and this game stays alive here.
Absolutely.
But then that is the power of literally even the impression that you might be about to win. That ends up then earning Chris Jones a straight up full man one-on-one. Like that is not a winning matchup for every defensive tackle in football. It's not a winning matchup for the defensive tackle next to him.
No,
and he just drives him back into Rippon.
Because you're right, because looking at that play again, Karlaftis looks like he's going to win on the inside, and the left guard probably only sees white jersey.
Right. He gets some shoulder out and arms out, which again, like that's not to take anything away from Karlaftis. He forced the guard to react.
Right. But what the guard wasn't aware of is that the left tackle was getting in position to be able to shut down that rush from Karlaftis, but the left guard overreacted. You're right.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. And the reason that I think I even mentioned that little detail is because, to your Bengals point, the movements here can be so finite.
Yeah.
The margin between a winning rep and a losing rep for Chris Jones is how much George Karlaftis gets in the head of a guard. Like, that's what we're talking about for a Chris Jones forced pick. It probably doesn't happen if Karlaftis just tries to win to the edge instead of winning to the inside. You know, playing the inside there makes the guard react to him.
I mean, also,
if he tries to go around the outside, that guard never even knows he's there.
I mean, is that part of the Steve Spagnuolo rush of Karlaftis?
Absolutely possible.
On this, you are going inside of the left tackle when you see that, you know, when we're in this alignment or whatever it might be, you're going inside, or is that Karlaftis had been rushing in certain ways and then was setting up the left tackle, then cut back inside and didn't win? But maybe was setting up, and it just so happened to be on that play that took place instead of him trying to beat him around the outside. I don't know what happened there, but obviously it caused the help of the left guard. And at that point, the center's one-on-one with Chris Jones, and he just dominates him. Walks him back and then tosses him and then goes and gets ripping.
It's a blocking sled. It's incredible.
That's right.
It really is an interesting rep from Karlaftis, too, because he set out pretty wide and then juts straight ahead, but then he gets his inside hand on the inside of the lineman, and that's the domino effect there that follows. And it's also a pretty good example of a defensive end who does not get credit, certainly for a sack. I don't think he's even getting credit for a pressure.
No.
He might not get credit for a rep win, a pass rush win. He might not get credit for that.
I don't think I thought I'm sitting here saying he wins because in my mind I'm seeing the left guard go over there and then I'm watching Chris Jones.
And then Karlaftis starts backpedaling just for like
right.
another moment of where he was actually at. I don't know that he's going to get any statistical credit for that, but we can watch it and say, hey, if George Karlaftis doesn't make this move and this play here and the guard doesn't react to him, Chris Jones never gets to Brett Rippon.
So one quick point on just in general, going back to what we were talking about in turnovers as to whether or not it's something that'll be concerning moving forward or not, because we know it can end your season in the postseason if you're turning the ball over and the defense isn't getting it back. So going back since the bye week, the Chiefs have played 6 games since they had the bye. And they've turned the ball over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. 10 times in those 6 games.
Is that all?
And some of those are kind of dismissed, too. The onside kick against Jacksonville. Okay, well, you end up, beating them pretty good. You're up 27-10, and Mahomes throws the interception trying to hit McKinnon over the middle. That was in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes to play. You're up 27-10, 2nd and 9. And Mahomes counted that as one of those, I got to stop making stupid throws in the fourth quarter when we're leading. That was one of those. He talked about it with San Francisco, and then that game against Jacksonville. The Rams, Sky Moore, muff punt, first quarter 0-0. Well, we know the Chiefs were going to take care of business in that game with Bryce Perkins at quarterback. You can even make a case that 27-0 and 27-7 turnovers weren't to the point of, wow, that was so costly. Because up 27-7, you turn the ball over, you're still up 20 points. It's just that the Broncos got the ball the next 2 possessions off the turnover and then to start the third quarter, which is also a quick aside of why Andy Reid defers, is because the only time outside of a turnover that you can get the ball back-to-back is to end the first half and start the third quarter. And that's the way that the Broncos were able to get back in that game. The ones that were crucial and that will kill you, Chargers fourth quarter, Bengals fourth quarter, Broncos fourth quarter, and then going back to Tennessee in the third quarter with 11 minutes to play. Chiefs were at their own 36, down by 5. That's when Mahomes tried to hit Kelsey on that quick little block and then turn around and the ball bounced off his hands and they got the interception, and then the Chiefs defense held him to 3. 17 instead of 21-9.
It's a win.
17-9 because they were in field goal range already. Defense didn't give anything up against Malik Willis in that particular game. But there are some that will kill you, and there are some that are just like, yeah, you turn the ball over, but you shouldn't do that or you're getting careless, but it's not one that can cost you the game. It can cost you the game against the Bengals or other teams or other things like that. But if you're up, even Mahomes' interception in the fourth quarter against the Rams, they were up 20-10 with 9 minutes to go. And as he said, it was dumb. He was throwing it and then saw the guy get in front and then tried to just throw it a little bit shorter and ended up throwing right to the guy's chest, and it was an interception. But we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. Hey, what did the executive director of the Liberty Bowl have to say about Kansas and Arkansas and Missouri? Why is he talking about that? I don't know. We'll do that next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson
And whoever bought the best snacks.
on Sports Radio 810.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards. Text says, so what's the Missouri State news? Bobby Petrino is the new offensive coordinator at UNLV for Barry Odom. No worries about Petrino in Vegas. You're fine. Nothing to worry about there. Springfield, Missouri. Yeah. Vegas, hey, all good. Going to be perfectly fine. Good for Bobby Petrino at Missouri State, going from first in the conference to second in the conference this year to eighth in conference and getting out. Typically what he's good at doing is beating the cavalry. Told Missouri State, and they're like, oh, Bobby's there, and look what he did. He got him. They were a bad program. Got him to first. I'm like, yeah, okay. Talk to me in a couple of years.
Just let's give it some time.
See what happens. If he's there in 3 years and what their record is, and that Arkansas game was fun, close, right there. But they still finished eighth in their own conference. Speaking of college football and conferences, the Liberty Bowl. It's set. It's the fight for how do you pronounce
KU and Mizzou, baby. Really excited. They're going to be playing again in football.
Well, it was KU versus the winner of Arkansas, Missouri. Is what it was going to be. That was the way it was billed, and that is not what ended up happening. But then it was the Brett McMurphy. Oh, whoa, hey, no.
Whoa, hey, Beards.
I told you we were going to be out of 55.
Whoa, Beards, what do you think this is? A radio show with an out time?
I thought it was 56.
Nope. I said 55.
I wasn't listening.
Now I'm mad.
Do you want to explain to me how?
By the way,
Barry Odom got another head coaching job so fast.
Shocker that Beards is the one controlling it, and it's like, no, I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear facts.
Just so you know, we have 30 seconds left now.
No, I don't want to hear facts. I want to stick with the narrative that was wrong.
We don't have time to play this audio, but I do have time to show you a picture of Eli Drinkwitz holding up a sign that says, "We were dodging Kansas." Wow, weird, crazy,
yeah.
Jason.
Isn't that odd? It's weird.
You give us the gist of it, or
10 seconds. We have 10 seconds.
Don't worry about the Liberty Bowl executive director saying Missouri was actually trying to get in the Liberty Bowl. Baloney about them trying to dodge Kansas. They fought for Arkansas.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So I looked.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. An hour from now, or at least a little less than an hour, I should say, we'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs, the coordinators, and some others there at the podium. Hear from them getting ready for the Houston Texans right now, getting us ready for the Texans and other things going on with the Chiefs. Kent Swanson, KCSN.substack.com, KC Sports Network, and KC Laboratory Podcast. Kent, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. Hope you guys are having a great holiday season. It feels like it's been a minute since we've talked to y'all, so I'm excited to do it.
It has been a while. I mean, I know it's been since the whole soccer match, but man, it's been it doesn't feel like we've talked in a while, which means that there's plenty of stuff to talk about. There's plenty of things to discuss and break down about this Chiefs team, and it hasn't been a fun conversation the last couple of weeks around this Chiefs team, heading in closer and closer to the playoffs, but let's look ahead real quick, and then we'll discuss the overall team. What is it that maybe you're interested in or want to see from the Houston game or watching in the Houston game? Because there has been almost zero conversation this week about the Texans, which understandably so.
Yeah, I mean, things I'm looking forward to with the Texas game. I think I'd love to know the status of McCole Hardman and Kadarius Toney and what that element brings back. That ability to lateral stretch with some manufactured touches, vertical stretch down the field. How they can utilize both. I think that's one of the bigger storylines. Is there's a chance that both of those guys are on the field for week 15. If that's the case, I mean, I think that's the group you're going to be rolling into in the playoffs. Hopefully, if everything goes as you're expecting, with that from a health perspective, and what does the full reveal of that offense look like with some of those guys getting involved again with some of that lateral stuff that they really haven't been able to run as effectively recently.
Is that one of the things that we've seen? Is that how important that part of the offense is to the overall scheme, play calling, and just game plan that the Chiefs have, to have that particular player that Sky Moore has been trying to fill that role. He's been mainly the motion man, but he's not Tyreek, McCole, and even Kadarius Toney in the 5 minutes we've seen him in a Chiefs uniform on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how crucial that role is to the totality of the offense, but it's a valuable piece to have, right? And it's a valuable asset to be part of that offense. I don't know if it's like they're just missing it drastically, but I do know that can be an element, especially, in the red zone. I think that can be a really valuable tool for them to kind of have at their disposal. And I'm curious if there's roles for Toney and Hardman at the same time. Like, I think there's a lot of factors that come into play with those two particular players, how they integrate them into the offense, how they utilize both of them with both of them kind of active. I think there's a lot of factors in there that I'm very curious to see, what they do with both of those guys. And it's a valuable piece to have in some special situations.
Visiting with Kent Swanson of KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast, and I'm trying to think back and looking it up right now that as we talk about both those guys, the crossover, there was one game they crossed over, but it really wasn't much. It was that Tennessee Titans game where, McCole played the whole game and Kadarius Toney, I think, played 9 total snaps, had a couple of targets. That first play of the game was to Toney, but that was really it. So we haven't seen those guys together on the field, healthy, and how the Chiefs will use both of them. That's a good point. It's not just, I was trying to think back. I'm like, have they crossed paths? But that Tennessee game was so odd, and it was the very beginning of it. So whenever McCole Hardman gets back and maybe fully ramped up, and if there's anything that is known as fully healthy for Kadarius Toney, I'm not sure. When those guys are out there at the same time, it will be fascinating to see that, because I think the element, Kent, has to be the spreading of the field lengthwise and width as well. Like, they've got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, they've got Justin Watson, they got speed that can go down the field. But while Sky Moore can do some different things, he doesn't offer the threat that every time he goes in motion, they may hand him the ball, and now this guy may get to the corner and cut it up for 20, 25 yards, so we've got to be worried about that. Or a quick throw down the line of scrimmage, and this guy may break a tackle here or there, what we saw from Kadarius Toney in that what was it, the Jacksonville game? Yeah, it was the Jags game. Yeah, the Jags game when we saw him make a number of plays. I think that is an element of this offense. Maybe it's not crucial. Maybe it's not a death knell, something they can't get by because, they scored 27 offensive points against one of the best defenses in the Denver Broncos. But it adds that element that if they could put it all together where they've got those guys that can spread the field sideline to sideline, and Hardman and Watson and Marquez Valdez-Scantling helping, spread the field, goal line to goal line, and then throw in what they've been doing with the running game, it's another element that we haven't seen it all together yet.
Yeah, and I think everything certainly benefits from both of those guys being available and the menu being open a little bit. And think about if you can run or threaten to run Kadarius Toney on some of the jet sweep kind of stuff. Well, if you run play action off of that, now you don't have to use McCole Hardman on the jet sweep stuff. Now he can run a vertical route. He can get involved with Marquez Valdez-Scantling down the field, and you can create some conflict there. And then, you said the run game. They're starting to figure some things out. They're playing a little bit more downhill with their running game, a little bit more gap. It's worked so far. Elements are starting to come together as they're starting to piece some things together in some ways as they kind of build towards the most important time of the season. And if they can get everybody healthy and ready to roll, there's a lot of different things that they can create problems for AFC opponents as they try to get to the Super Bowl.
Visiting with Kent Swanson, kcsn.substack.com. The turnovers have been a conversation we've been having about this Chiefs team. They've got 7 straight games in which they've turned the ball over. And in the last 5 games, looking at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So since the Jacksonville game, Jacksonville, Chargers, Rams, Bengals, Broncos, they have turned the ball over 9 times in those 5 games. 9 times in those 5 games. 5 of the 9 have been in the fourth quarter. Is there something there just random to you, noise, that these turnovers that we've seen this offense be so efficient that maybe there's a carelessness, maybe there's just bad timing, maybe it's something that will even out over time, that this offense shouldn't be turnover prone? What do you make of the -6 in general on the turnover differential this year for the Chiefs? 7 straight games with an offensive turnover, but 5 turnovers in the last 5 games coming in the fourth quarter.
I think some of the volume. I'd probably dismiss it a little bit as some of the opponents, except for there was a key fumble in the Bengals game
and the Chargers. The Chargers, they were up 23-20 in the fourth, and McKinnon fumbled, and then the Chiefs got it back by forcing Keenan Allen to fumble.
Yeah, the tides have turned in big games because of late turnovers, and you don't want to see it. I think it's a matter of the Travis Kelce one. I don't know how many times he's going to fumble the rest of the year. I would anticipate. I would bet on 0.
I would bet on 0.
I would bet on 0 because he learned a lesson there. Mahomes, I think there's been some carelessness with the football a little bit at times. Late in games. Some games, just period. With it, like the Denver game, he just got a little bit too aggressive there, this week. So, I think it's learning opportunities early, in the season, and I hope they don't, because I think this team has shown a propensity at times to turn the ball over a little bit more than you'd like. But I think they'll respond well, and I think these are all kind of learning lessons. Andy Reid always talks about kind of each season being a new season with learning. And sometimes you got to remind yourself and put emphasis on things throughout the year to help you achieve the ultimate goal. I'm not overly concerned, but it's definitely something to pay attention to, especially since the defense isn't turning the ball over much either. I mean, the Chiefs are one of the lowest turnover differential teams in football.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're -6. They're tied for third to last in turnover differential right now.
And they're one of the, if not the only team, I keep forgetting to look it up, but if not the only team that has a negative turnover differential that has a 500 record, or that is above 500. And that, that speaks to how good this team is. And it's a couple of things, Ken. It speaks to how good this team is, and it speaks to how they haven't played up to what we sort of feel like their ability is. That if they could, not turn the ball over, maybe get a couple of turnovers, some of these games are laughers. Like if the Chiefs are up 24-20, and then, or let's say when they were up 24-17 on the Bengals, what if Jamar Chase fumbles instead of Travis Kelce fumbling? Well, now they're up 7 and they get the ball back and don't turn the ball over. Now you're talking about what could be a 14-point win in Cincinnati and a completely different feel, but that didn't happen. The Chiefs didn't get the turnover. Travis Kelce then fumbled. But even if he doesn't, maybe they're up, 31-20 at that point. So some of it is noise, but I think that part of it is what continues to have maybe a frustration, maybe a worry that we haven't seen it this year, especially lately, from the offense where they can play a game, not turn it over, and still be efficient and put up as many points as they did against the Denver Broncos, where they were either scoring or turning it over. I guess could be glass half full, glass half empty, right, Kent? I mean, it could be they're turning the ball over a lot. That means they can be even better. That's glass half full. Glass half empty is, those turnovers are going to get you in the playoffs, and you're going to be thinking about that the entire offseason.
It could also speak a little bit to just like the state of this football team, that they've made us forget that this is more or less a rebuild year, all things considered. I think that this is almost like a reminder of, hey, look, this team still has the best player in the world, and the best player in the world is going to give you a lot of chances to win football games, but your margin for error does not exist the same way it has in the past, because you've elected to make some choices to kind of turn your roster over a little bit, get younger, get cheaper at different places. So, you're probably not going to have as many playmakers in the back seven of your defense that are going to turn people over. You're going to have to deal with a few fumbles in the return game when you try to roll out your second-round pick in the punt return game. People forget there's some special teams turnovers sprinkled in there too. Yep. So, I almost wonder at times with the turnover differential and the way that this season has gone, with both losing the football a little bit and not being able to make plays on the football, if it's just a little bit of a reminder of, this season may not be to the same expectations and standards that you've had about this team in the past, and they're still really good and right in it for the 1 seed.
Visiting with Kent Swanson, kcsn.substack.com and KC Laboratory Podcast. Let's talk about the defense and what we've seen from this Chiefs team. Maybe the last time we talked, I think there was a sense and a feeling of how good this defense is going to be as the season goes on, because we felt like there was clearly an improvement talent-wise, speed-wise, aggressiveness, ability to tackle, all of that stuff. And as they get to know Spags' defense and more, they're just going to get better. Have they regressed in your mind? It feels like that the last couple of weeks, but is that what you're seeing? Is that just a feeling? How do you assess what we've seen from this Chiefs defense recently?
I think some of the concerns that maybe have been discussed throughout the entirety of the season are starting to rear their head a little bit, especially as more tape gets out on this team. And, maybe Steve Spagnuolo not feeling as confident to get into his bag, to be as exotic as he'd like to be with some of his, pressures and some of the coverage stuff that he wants to show. It feels like they're still being a little bit basic. They're being a little bit safe with what they're calling, to try to kind of keep, to try to help this young secondary as they're, as they're developing. So I think there's a little bit of teams catching up to what the Chiefs are doing, and some concern about, if you were concerned about the 4-man pass rush, I think against good football teams, they show that it's a little bit inconsistent. Against the Bengals is a big game I think you look at, where the Chiefs weren't able to get home with 4. They weren't able to manufacture any pressure on Joe Burrow. I know the Chiefs are just coming off a 6-sack game against the Broncos, but it's the Broncos, and they didn't have Dalton Risner, and their offensive line has been bad, and their quarterback has been bad. So I'm a little bit more dubious about the results from that game, as I am more concerned about, hey, look, the Bengals, this is a team that you're probably going to have to face. You couldn't get pressure to save your life. So I think those elements are kind of coming into play, and we'll get exposed a little bit if you're not careful. Towards the end of the year in January, you're going to have these same kind of questions if they keep playing at the way they are.
Yeah, Kent Swanson, kcsn.substack.com. Is there? Do you think that Steve Spagnuolo is running more of a vanilla, generic back-end scheme in coverage because there are so many rookies, at times 4 rookies out there playing. Is that happening, or am I sort of hoping that that's the case as to why sometimes the secondary, and when the Chiefs don't get pressure, they are the worst in the NFL against the pass in passer rating, QBR, when they don't get pressure. Out of all teams, when they're not pressuring the quarterback, Chiefs are 32nd in that. Is Spagnuolo doing something different in the back end than he would typically be doing if he had guys around for a couple, 3 years? And Justin Reed being new as well?
And I'm glad you brought Justin Reed up too, because like this is an entirely new secondary. I guess outside of Juan Thornhill, like this is basically an all new secondary. And I mean, the Chiefs traded Rashad Fenton at the deadline. Like they got rid of one of their other veterans, right? I mean, L'Jarius Sneed and Juan Thornhill are really the only carryovers in their respective rooms. So I think there's a lot of, hey, look, we're trying to get these rookies acclimated and competent. They're not going to put them out on an island too much. Safety play's also been really, really bad, and I don't know if they can trust the safeties either. So I think there's been times the safeties have been worse than the corners. Honestly, actually, I think there's been a lot of games where the safeties have been worse than the corners. It's kind of funny that the rookie corners have been the ones that have really stepped up in a big way in some of these games. But there's some trust factor, I think, there that where, Steve Spagnuolo doesn't feel like he can get into his bag the way he wants to, just because he doesn't want to put too much stress on that secondary. And I don't know if I blame him, but also I think at some point this might be a good stretch where you kind of help them sink or swim a little bit. This game against Houston could be a good chance to let's try to be a little bit more exotic. Let's try to throw more at these guys and give these guys a chance to do some different things.
Visiting with the Kent Swanson, KCSN.substack.com, KC Laboratory Podcast. What do you think of the pass rush as we move forward to these final 4 weeks? They've got 17 sacks in the last 4 games. What sticks out from that is the 16 of those sacks came in 3. I mean, you get one of them in the last 5 games, I should say, and one of them happening. You know what? 17 sacks when I take out the Rams game with Bryce Perkins. So Jacksonville, Chargers, Bengals, Broncos. So they've got 17 sacks. One of them coming in the Bengals game. That's what sticks out. What are you seeing from that? Are you satisfied with them putting pressure on the quarterback and bringing the quarterback down, being third in the NFL in sacks, or is the best pass rusher on the Chiefs Steve Spagnuolo? Not named Chris Jones.
That wasn't exactly. It wasn't exactly a murderer's row of offensive linemen there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Those are 4, spotty offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
But and the sack against Joe Burrow came where he gave himself up essentially and gave George Karlaftis that opportunity to pad those stats. I look at this group and Chris Jones is the elite constant. I mean, he's having the best. I think he's having the best year of his big contract. I think this has been his best season under that big contract. He's been outstanding, and if you're able to mitigate him or minimize him a little bit, there's not a lot of guys standing up consistently and winning consistently. We can talk about sacks. I don't know, it doesn't feel like they've been able to generate pressure when it matters the most with a 4-man rush.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things I'm most concerned about. George Karlaftis is totally fine for what he is. But I think you've got to temper expectations for a back end of the first round pass rusher. If you are, if you're going to be an impact player, most of the time you're going in the top 15 picks at the edge position. So I think they've got quality rotational pieces, but I don't know if they've got enough to consistently bring it in the games that are going to matter the most in January for 3 games, 2 games, 4 games, whatever it is. I don't know if they've got enough juice on that front to consistently win against the best teams.
Yeah, and that's where that back end is going to have to come in, because Steve Spagnuolo is going to have to create that in different blitz packages and bring different guys, and other guys are going to have to step up and play well in that back end. And I should also point out, all 3 of those touchdowns to Jerry Jeudy were on the rookie cornerbacks, one on McDuffie, one on Williams, and one on Jalen Watson. He was just like, I will get all 3 of you. And one of those was just a blown coverage with McDuffie and Sneed, the first touchdown to Jerry Jeudy. And I think back to the 2 touchdowns to Josh Palmer in the Rams game, and those were broken coverages and miscommunications. So that's at least 3 in the last 3 weeks that have been touchdown passes by somebody being just wide open because there was a miscommunication in the back end. And whether we say, okay, well, that makes sense because there are so many new guys back there, that also is kind of scary because it's week, 15 coming up? And that's still happening over the previous 3 weeks that we're still seeing some of those things. So it's worrisome, but it's also kind of expected. And I do wonder if there is that, rookie wall that we talk about, Kent, that, is that happening? And Andy Reid was asked about that yesterday, and he didn't say anybody specific. He said it more in general, but I wrote it down when he said that you got to go through that rookie wall, or, guys going through that rookie wall, they have the power to push through, power through. They've got to, power through, do some of those things. He didn't say anybody specific, but he sort of agreed like, yeah, I mean, these guys got to do that. They got to power through. I don't know if he was saying that maybe he's seeing that, or it's just in general that when they're in college, they're getting ready for the bowl games right now. And now it's, these last 4 weeks, and this is where the NFL speeds up. This is where it gets faster, where you have better teams each and every week, and one play can be the difference in your entire season. So it is a concern on what the defense is doing this year, but that's also where we talk about, Kent, the turnover differential, because get an extra possession or two, steal a possession, and the offense not turning it over goes a long way to helping out the defense.
Yeah, I'm curious who the guy that's going to make a play on the football is.
Right.
If that if you're trying to generate turnovers, I mean, one of the best strengths of this team is being able to bat passes down and tip some balls. So, what are you hoping that Chris Jones tips a pass that somebody intercepts? I mean, I think one of the things and one of the byproducts of having a young secondary is these guys are so intent and focused on just being in position to contest the football that they're probably not as intentional about making plays on the football right now. And so, the game's still a little bit fast for them. There's some hold on for dear life moments. Mm-hmm. And, with the safety position too, I think it's gotta come from that group if you're going to get a ton of plays on the football. If you're going to see an uptick, I think it needs to be from the safeties. And it's been tough sledding for that group this year. So, I don't know. I don't know if there's a great answer for someone making plays on the football too much.
We got in a conversation yesterday about Shaquille Leonard for the Colts, who's only played 3 games this year. But last year, he led the league in forced fumbles with 8 of them. And his skill, and he might be the best we've ever seen. Peanut Tillman did it with just punching it out. But the skill that Shaquille Leonard has is just when he's going to wrap up, the arm that's going to wrap on the side of where the ball carrier is running is the club hand, is what he punches while he's wrapping up. So he punches at the ball while going to wrap up, and he forced 8 fumbles last year, which led the league. I don't know that we see that from the Chiefs, and it's unfair to compare it to one of the best we've ever seen in Shaq Leonard. But it just, even in general, like going after and punching the football with that aggressiveness while also wrapping up. I don't know. Maybe it's just trying to be sure tacklers. Maybe it's going about it the wrong way. Snead tried to go after the ball with Marlon Mack and failed, and then tripped up Juan Thornhill while doing that. We've seen it a couple times. I should point out the fumble with Keenan Allen in that Chargers game. That was Nick Bolton clubbing down at the ball, and then L'Jarius Sneed when he caused the fumble on Devontae Adams in that Raiders game that then went out of bounds. That was L'Jarius Sneed coming in, hitting him, and then throwing his arm at the football and knocked it free. Do we see that nearly enough as would be expected when Justin Reid said they focus on trying to turn the ball over, and they've been doing that in practice, and it's been one of the emphasis this year?
I think they might just be bad at it.
Well, that's certainly an explanation too.
Because I look at some of the tackling, technique that these guys use, and it feels like there is, at times while these guys are tackling, they're trying to emphasize making some plays on the football, and that's why they struggle to bring some guys down. I think some of the ways that they wrap up, they try to hold guys up so someone can come with them to try to make a play on the football while they're holding some guys up. And I think that's where you see some of the tackling inconsistencies, where maybe they're dragging a guy towards the line to gain for an extra 3 yards, which is one of the more infuriating things that the team tends to do when they tackle. Or maybe just flat out some missed tackles because they're trying to play through the arms to try to make a play on the football. I think some of the inconsistencies and frustrations we see from the tackling is actually how inconsistent they are at being able to make a play on the ball when they're trying to get the ball out. So it's a problem for me, and I don't know if that's fixable. I don't think we're going to see an uptick in that either. Like, I'm so optimistic today, Jason. But I just that's just kind of what I see. I think at this point, this is who they are.
Yeah, for sure.
And you kind of got to accept it. And I think these are the flaws that keep this team from winning a Super Bowl, from being able to achieve the ultimate goal, which I think is all Chiefs fans care about right now, anyway.
And every team is flawed. There is not a perfect team. The Bengals have flaws. The Bills have flaws. If Von Miller's not playing in that first game, are the Chiefs victorious? Are they winning that game? And he ain't going to play in the next time they face him, if they face him this year in the playoffs. Kent Swanson, KCSN.substack.com, KC Laboratory Podcast. Do you have a final score in mind for the Chiefs and Texans on Sunday?
I don't think it's going to be like the prettiest game. I could see the Chiefs letting back in a little bit. Give me 30-17. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. I could see it being 23-17 late in the game potentially. Just the way this team's playing, just survive in advance, move on. But I think they'll win.
All right, we'll see what happens. Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, KCSN.substack.com, and KC Laboratory Podcast. Kent, you're the man. Really appreciate the time as always, sir. Enjoy the football, and we'll talk soon.
All right, catch you later.
All right, there's Kent Swanson, KCSN.substack.com, KC Laboratory Podcast. We take a timeout. We come back. We continue rolling. Short segment on the other side, and then we'll hear from the Chiefs out at One Arrowhead Drive in the practice facility getting ready for the Texans on this Thursday edition of The Zone at Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Text says, love you guys, or excuse me, says like you guys. I apologize. Another text said, love the show. Sorry, I've combined those. I apologize. Like you guys. I don't want to exaggerate.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards. Thank you to Kent Swanson joining us, breaking down the Chiefs, getting ready for this Texans game. There is some news for Missouri in football as they get ready for the Gasparilla Bowl, December 23rd. The news is that one of the players that was expected to go pro on defense for Mizzou will be returning to Missouri, and that is Chris Abrams-Drain. The cornerback for Mizzou, junior, has announced he will return for one more year at Mizzou. If you're wondering what the prospects for him in the draft, Pro Football Focus Big Board has him as number 64 overall. Wow. Number 64 overall, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, ninth cornerback in the draft, number 64 overall, Chris Abrams-Drain, is going to return for one more year. So maybe would have been a late second-day selection, early third-day selection. I'm wondering if Abrams-Drain is doing this because he's had so few reps and time playing cornerback when he's been a wide receiver, and then they moved him to the defensive side, and he really started to become a good player last year. And then this year he was awesome. Thought he was really good as a cornerback, to the point that Pro Football Focus's Big Board has him as number 64 overall. Then maybe he's looking at it and saying, one more year at Mizzou, one more year improving as a cornerback, I might be the number 20 overall player in the draft at cornerback. But that's really shocking, and it's big news for Mizzou to get a guy like that on the outside as a cornerback that's been a really good player, is still ascending at that position, and is fun to watch play because he attacks the ball in the air because he's a former wide receiver. That when the ball's in the air, he's like, that's for me. I'm going to go get the ball. Big news.
NFLDraftBuzz.com had him listed as a late second-round pick in this year's draft. It is really, and that was dating back to, I think, October. It looks like. So there's a chance that he could have risen up even more quickly than that. I think of Trayvon Diggs as like the wide receiver to cornerback kind of model that the NFL has shown themselves to be open to. I don't know what kind of feedback he got, but I imagine the NFL teams would have been willing to try to help him make that transition at the NFL level. So he certainly didn't. It's not like he needed to go back to hone his skills to get on the radar. He was going to be a pretty high selection.
That is one to where in the second or third round, you take him and go, he's only played a couple of years in his life at cornerback, and he's been doing this. We'll get him in here, continue to work on his technique, and we're going to have a guy that if we drafted him next year, we may not get him in the second or third round because he would be higher. So that's certainly good news for Mizzou and Chris Abrams-Drain returning. 913-912-4810 is the text line. Hey, speaking of that, Beards, do we have time to play that fun little clip? Yes, we do. Beards,
I wish he just started playing the music.
Barely.
Just going to break, because we're going to hear from the Chiefs. But we were going to play this before Kent Swanson at the end of last hour, but then Beards was like, let me go to break because I don't want to hear this. I'm just having fun living in my bubble and my narrative world.
Beard's all about narratives. Beards loves to build a narrative.
The narrative. He narrates everybody else's life just for a narrative.
That's actually kind of true.
Here is Steve Earhart.
You're in the zone.
That would have been great. I kind of wish he would have done that. That would have been phenomenal. Steve Earhart on Hit the Lines podcast, which most people are familiar with. Or Hit That Line, whatever. It's an Arkansas.
I'm subscribed to both of them, actually.
It's an Arkansas website, and they had him on to talk about the Razorbacks in the Liberty Bowl. And here he is weighing in on why they went with Arkansas and the report about Missouri ducking Kansas and not wanting to play in the Liberty Bowl because of Kansas.
We were working with the SEC office for the assignments, and we stood tall for the Razorbacks from day one because, as you know, at the end, when Missouri happened to beat the Razorbacks in the last game, they wanted to come, no matter what all that baloney was about not wanting to play Kansas. And we had some choices in the Big 12 side, too. We could have taken Baylor or Oklahoma State, some pretty good teams, but we wanted to give an opportunity to Kansas, who's, like we said, has none of their people that have ever been to a bowl game, and this made their chance. So we wanted to have the matchup of Kansas versus Arkansas, and there was a time when, it got a little tense there because Missouri said, well, we should trump Arkansas because we beat them in the last game and both had the same kind of record. But either I or Harold Grader from our office were over there all year long. We were in touch with Coach Pittman all the way through and said, hey, we're going to stick with you. And at the end, we had some choices. We could have gone a different way, but we told, I remember the days, Sam called us and then Hunter called and said, because the SEC was asking us, and, we stood tall, and we told the SEC office, we said, hey, there's so many connections between the state of Arkansas with Memphis, and especially all the fans that live on the east side of the state. It did work out fine.
You not want to turn on my mic? That's fine.
That was my bad.
That's fine.
He was trying to get the music ready again.
So, turns out a lot of people might be wrong in this.
Really embarrassing that Mizzou was able to pay him off. I mean, they got to him. Eli got to him with a big bag of money. Embarrassing.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people could be wrong in this, where the very popular narrative that, by the way, this is going to be ignored by almost, I haven't really seen this much out there to the degree that, oh my goodness, last week's or whenever it was, Brett McMurphy's report was just everywhere. Let's all have some fun with that. Let's ignore what may actually have happened, because who wants to focus on the truth when you can just have fun with a false narrative?
Just like how Mizzou fans ignore that no foul was called on Thomas Robinson.
Totally ignore it, yes. Just like the officials ignored that
Right.
the making a call there.
I didn't hear no whistle.
I ain't heard no bell. That maybe everybody's wrong. That the narrative of Missouri was trying to duck Kansas, not true. And then what I had thought was certainly a possibility of them not wanting to play in the Liberty Bowl because of the crossover with the Kentucky game, which is what we had heard, is that they preferred a pre-20 or a pre-Christmas bowl. Mm-hmm. But then when, push came to shove, they were arguing with the SEC to say we deserve the Liberty over Arkansas. And the executive director had to then deal with the SEC in saying we want Arkansas, which is how it works. And I know I've seen some people that have been like, so that means that Liberty Bowl didn't even want you. Well, that's fine. It's sort of how it works for connections and getting the tickets and stuff like that. That's very different than them ducking Kansas, than the Liberty Bowl saying, yeah, we want the match. We want Arkansas here because it's ticket sales, and we're fighting with the SEC because we've stood by Arkansas all year that this is the team we want. And then when Missouri won, which thank God they're not in a Liberty Bowl, because I'll be damned if you call them Missouri. All right. When Missouri won, it was really difficult then, because then we had to continue to talk with the SEC that we wanted Arkansas. So maybe everybody's wrong. Maybe it's just as simple as that. And also, as he said, he's like, well, baloney about ducking Kansas. We had other choices. Baylor and Oklahoma State, we could have taken them as well. But we took KU because none of them have ever been to a bowl. Thought that was kind of interesting. He's talking about like the players currently.
Hold up Eli sign. Someone needs to Photoshop. The Liberty Bowl didn't even want us.
We were the second choice.
We were a backup.
They wanted two Kansases, damn it. All right, we'll take a timeout. We will hear from the coordinators and others coming up next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
The horn just blew. Can I does that mean I'm done?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I will head out to the Chiefs practice facility here in just a little bit. The lineup for today, no Dave Tobe. They have punted on Dave Tobe because the Chiefs punted a couple times in the game. And
they caught all the other ones.
Yeah.
That's right. Steve Spagnuolo, Eric Bieniemy, and then assistant coach day. Joe Cullen, D'Alicio, Greg Lewis, and Andy Heck. Steve Spagnuolo is up first, and I believe will be heading to the podium very shortly.
No injuries today from the Chiefs. They did say that. And also, just a real quick note, Donald D'Alicio is the name here that I don't think we've heard from before. First year as safeties coach. Oh. He was a defensive assistant last year, but then, Dave Merritt goes to Miami. Dave Merritt is elevated when Sam Madison goes to Miami last year, or this offseason. And so there's a new name at the podium for us today.
All right. D'Alicio will be coming up here in just a little bit, but Steve Spagnuolo will start us off. I am curious about if anybody, if Teicher asked him about Nick Bolton and the conversation we had on Tuesday about the reps and how many plays he is playing, which is 100% in 5 straight games. And if that starts to wear down for a middle linebacker and a guy as physical as he is, that he never comes off the field ever. And since the Colts game, he has missed a total of 10 snaps. In all the games played since the Colts, he's missed 10 snaps. Those were in the fourth quarter of the 49ers game when they rested guys because they were up by so many points, and it was out of hand. Every other rep he's been out there and played. I don't know. Maybe that comes up. Maybe not. Here's Steve Spagnuolo.
Other guys, right? Okay, listen, as usual, I don't have a lot to say. We're looking forward to the next game here. Happy about getting the win last week. Would have liked to have played a little bit better, but we ended up with more points than they had and won the game. So with that, we'll turn our attention to the next opponent, and I'll open it up.
Last week, you guys had a big lead. They got a little momentum going. You went back and looked at it. What did you attribute that to?
Yeah, it was 2 series at the end of the half, right? I think it's 27-0 if my mind is right here. Was it a turnover? And then what was not good when we talked about it was we didn't play sudden challenge and change situations really good, and you have to do that in this league. So no matter where the ball was put, I think one was on the 42 and one might have been in the plus territory. But no matter what happens there, we either got to get them 3 and out or at least hold them to a field goal if they're in field goal range. That was disappointing. It brought us into the locker room with a different feeling than we should have had. But I'll say this, there was a silver lining to that. We came in the locker room, it doesn't feel good, right? We're up 27-0. But I thought we responded well after the first drive of the second half because we had that one play. That play is the one. So in a lot of games, you remember only a few plays, right? Forever in that game, it's the screen I'm going to remember. Those are the ones that stick there. And we should have got that guy on the ground and found a way to get off the field. But sudden challenge situations, we've got to play better.
Coach, your rookie defensive backs have largely been impressive for how young they are this year, and this seemed like a little bit of a setback. What do you think is left for them to just feel like they're confident and ready to go?
Yeah, you hit the word you just said about confident is a big one. I felt like, remember way back when we had Jalen in there because Trent got hurt, and he plays against the Chargers. He gets that interception. That was tremendous for him. Josh Williams is in there fighting as a rookie, and I forget what game it is, but he had the pick right in the red zone. That was great confidence for him. And then there's and as we get closer, and we talk about this all the time, as we get closer and closer to what we hope is a playoff run, et cetera, the game changes. It gets faster. Teams we play are going to be better. We faced a better team when we played Cincinnati, and the same thing with last week. And the guys got to step up. So there's a little bit of growing pains still there. But there's a lot of downs there. I say this all the time about corners. There's a lot of downs where those guys are doing a really good job that go unnoticed because the ball doesn't get thrown there. And there's been a lot of downs where they've done a nice job with that.
Steve, how do you coach, confidence? Because you always work with the guys and, off-season, everything, one-on-one, individually, and you get a feel for what they are mentally. But how do you go across coaching that?
Well, again, you might have said it in your statement there. I think you build it with a player, at least for me personally as a quarterback, in a one-on-one. And I have those all the time. And it's best sitting in there and putting tape on. I was doing it with Justin Reed either this week or last week. And kind of getting specific. And then making sure that you finish with, look, you've been doing a great job, keep doing the good things, let's clean this up. But I think the one-on-one conversations are the best. Bring them back to some things that maybe I have been through, this player that I had in years past. You're playing a lot like he is, and, I think those kind of things.
It remains to be seen whether Houston will do the same thing with their quarterbacks
Yeah.
as they did last week. But have you gone up against a rotation like that, and how do you prepare for that?
I'm not sure we've gone in knowing it was going to be a rotation. We get it in certain games where a quarterback gets hurt, and you have to be ready for the backup. But, well, listen, we got to prepare for both of them. And, we have a number 6 jersey out there in practice and a number 10 jersey, and the players have to be aware of who's taking the snap because it looks like the football is a little bit different. Now, that could change. They could expand the package with 6 and do some different things with 10. But it's 2 quarterbacks that I think, one of them's a really good athlete, and let's not be fooled, he can still throw it. He didn't throw it a lot last week, but that doesn't mean he's not going to line up and throw the ball this week. So we got to be on target with what we do. Sometimes when you have that, it's more about what you're doing and not as much about how they're changing. But we do have to be conscious about which guy is taking the snap.
It seems like the tackling the last couple of weeks has not maybe been as good as it was earlier.
Yeah.
Anything you can put your finger on?
No, but I tell you, I think what happens on that is when you get a play like that screen, then we all remember the little tackle. If we knock them out and we ended up giving up 3 points, nobody would be saying anything about tackles. But in this time of the year, it always needs to get better. Like, you don't want your worst tackling games to be at the end of the year. You want those to be at the beginning of the year. There's not a lot you can do during the week. I tell you what we do, even in yesterday's practice where, we don't have helmets on, and I go back and show it to them the next day. I expect those guys, even without helmets, to, when they approach the ball carrier, to get in a position like in their mind they were tackling. I think that's the best you can do. The other things that come up that I think you can still work on during practice is leverage the ball the proper way. If you got 2, if we're in white, right, we're the team in white, and I got 2 white jerseys in there in my periphery, and I got the ball carrier, make sure I finish on that side. Little things like that, but hopefully that'll get better.
Steve, you talked about the second quarter. What did you see from your zone coverages?
About what?
The second quarter,
Yeah.
when you struggled, the zone coverages there and your guys.
I don't remember what we were calling, to be quite honest with you.
A couple throws went to the flat and got 10+ yards, so I just kind of.
Yeah, one in specifically that you're talking about, we had it matched and we came off of it. Should not have come off of it. It would have made it a little bit easier now. Might not have been able to throw it there. There's little things like that. And we've had a couple of check downs. Now, you go back 2 weeks ago on the check downs, a little bit of that was because of what was going downfield, all those threats. So, there was a conscious effort to say we're not going to give up the explosive pass plays, and sometimes that happens. And, maybe we needed to play a little bit differently. But the one specific one that you're talking about, now that I remember, is we kind of came off the coverage a little bit. We should have stayed on.
Coach, you've done a great. Go ahead, Nate.
First game for Brendan Williams, just
yeah, I'll tell you.
Your evaluation, although I know it's just one game.
Yeah, really impressed with. It's kind of like Baker Mayfield, right? I mean, Brendan was only here 3 days or whatever, and he did an admirable job. What he still can do as a D lineman is knock somebody back. He really helped us on the goal line. We had the 2 or 3 goal line snaps. I think they took a penalty and went back, and then we were out of goal line defense. But he helped us there, and I was real impressed with how he picked it up. True pro, veteran.
Were you in Baltimore when he was there?
Yeah, his rookie year. Yeah, they're always different as rookies than they are when they're vets. But.
You guys as the defense have done a really nice job with pressuring the quarterback this year, and a lot of that has been timely blitzes. Where do you sense the 4-man rushes at this stage, and do you feel like it needs to just be a little bit?
Well, I did think through the course of the game, without doing all the plays, that we had 4-man rushes where we have, in the last 2 weeks, we have gotten the quarterback to move. What we haven't done, and what Joe and I and the guys are talking about, is we need to finish the quarterback when we get him moving around. That's where we need to get better. I think that the guys have gotten home in situations like you would want. I just think the finishing part of it is the next step for us.
In the past, when you've gone up against mobile quarterbacks, you've sometimes had to go to a former high school quarterback or something to mimic that.
In the practice, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And this year you got two guys in Shane and Chris.
Chris is great. Yeah, Shane's great.
How valuable has that been to have those two?
It's a good point because when we play these zone read quarterbacks, and those two guys, they know what they're doing in that. I mean, we put the card up and they read it, but they'll look at it and know exactly what to do because they've done it, most of their careers before they got into the NFL. That's real helpful. I value that, both those guys, to be able to do that.
Coach, a couple of years ago in the playoff game, I think it was Justin Reed that had the fake punt, and Swanson made the tackle. Have you talked to him about that?
No, I had forgotten all about that. I remember Dan making the play. Until you just said that, I had no idea it was Justin Reed.
What is it about the Texans maybe that, kind of like the Titans, maybe it's just a matchup thing that gives, the Chiefs?
Yeah, they're good. Listen, it's a good football team, well coached. They still have play. Listen, I've been on both ends of, the really good and guys are prideful in this league. They're going to play. Nobody's going to walk out there and lay down, and we don't expect that. I mean, I'm expecting a real tough battle here. We're going down there. They played Dallas really, really well, gained some confidence. They got two quarterbacks now. They scored some points, right? They almost win the game. And that's a scary team, so we better be ready. Good? All right, thank you.
All right, there you go. This is Steve Spagnuolo.
Scary team, those Texans.
Absolutely. They're well coached. You listen to Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City. I like how he sort of cut himself off there. He's like, I've been on both sides of the really good, and they're prideful guys in the NFL. Both sides, the really good and the what are you saying of the Texans? Are they the really good side, or are they've got pride? Here's Eric Bieniemy.
Everyone, holidays. I know the holiday season is upon us. With that said, it feels good coming off a good team victory. We found a way to drag ourselves across the finish line together, and we're going to continue working to do so. With that said, I'm all ears.
Coach, only one touchdown in the second half last week, and that's kind of been a trend when y'all get up big in the first half. Some people say it's taking your foot off the pedal. Some say you'll keep it on enough. What's the mentality when you have a big lead going into the second half?
The mentality, it remains the same. The thing that we got to make sure that we're doing is keeping our guys focused and locked in. Our players got to make sure that we're not taking anything for granted. Just because we have a lead does not equate to a victory. We have to learn to strain to finish, and we need to learn to play every play as if it's by far the most important play. And we can do a much better job of that.
Coach, Mahomes had like a toss to Jerick McKinnon. He took off, and I think that's probably going to be something that everyone talks about for a while, that touchdown. When you went back and saw that, I talked with Jerick after the game, and he said that that's something that you guys have actually practiced during camp. How many times do you actually practice plays like that that are just improvised?
You know what? Things happen. I'll say this. It's amazing because sometimes these guys can amaze you in many different ways. And obviously the play it broke down, Pat decides to scramble and make something happen. And those guys were on the same page. We always work on plays when we can extend it, and guys know exactly where to go, and they understand exactly where they need to be. And Pat does a great job of keeping his eyes downfield, and he just locates receivers. And their job is to make sure that they're in the right place. But on top of that, if he's throwing it to you, make the play, make it happen. And so that was just by chance one of those things that just happened. And we see that type of stuff, unfortunately, every day. It's not anything that we take for granted, but it's just something that you find to be amazing once it happens on game day.
Eric, you've got kind of a 1-2 thing going on now at running back. Do you feel like that gives opposing defenses maybe more difficulty than if you were to use one guy mainly? And if so, what might that be?
It's always good to have a number of guys that can run it, but on top of that, they just give you different looks. Each guy presents something different. And obviously, Pacheco is more of a physical type runner. Jerick is more of a jack of all trades. And those guys are doing a hell of a job. And obviously, you always want to throw them something that they're not expecting. And so I think those guys have done a heck of a job. Greg Lewis is doing a great job. So whoever's number's called, they know that, hey, they need to perform. And they understand exactly what their job is, but they also understand when they're in there, they have to make the very most of that opportunity.
Coach, it's rare Patrick will throw multiple picks in a game. When he does have those games, what do you see from him the next week as he tries to sharpen and correct those things?
You know what? It's not anything different that I'm seeing. It's making sure that he's focused and locked in and not talking himself off the edge. And you got to understand, he's a very competitive kid, and he's very self-aware of the mistakes that he makes. He's very self-aware of anything that's taking place on the field, especially in those critical moments. So when something like that happens, the only thing that you can do is, hey, man, listen, it's time to move on, okay? We can't keep killing ourselves over the mistake that we made. It was just like yesterday in practice. He kept talking about a scenario that came up and how he threw it, and he knew exactly what they were doing, and he's kicking himself in the face. I said, Pat, okay, today is Wednesday. Today we play the Houston Texans. Do not worry about that, okay? The only thing that we need to make sure is that we're not putting our team in a very vulnerable state, okay? Because when something like that happens, it tends to take the wind out of everybody. So let's make sure that we're controlling the controllables. And the only thing that we can control is what we do today.
Eric, this is a big picture question. You guys had a lot of success running the ball under center down the stretch, ending the game that way. Just what are the benefits to under center running for you guys?
I think some of the benefits is, I know the running backs will tell you, it gives them more of an opportunity to run downhill, gives them more of a running start. Ideally, it allows the O-line to come off and present different angles and run blocking schemes. But our gun run production has been pretty good as well. Now, that particular run I thought Pacheco made, obviously was well blocked. But the thing that stood out about it, it was the 2 or 3 missed tackles that those guys end up having because of his physical nature of attacking those guys in the back end. So I think every runner would love to line up in the home alignment 7, 8 yards deep. I know myself, I used to do that. Now I look like a big old ball back there. But those guys are doing a heck of a job when presented that opportunity to do so.
You got Kadarius Toney and McCole Hardman trying to work their way back. How have they looked in practice to you?
You know what, Dave? I'll say this. Our training room has done a great job of getting those guys ready, to participate with practice, but we'll just see how it goes. And, the thing that, our training room does, they do a great job. So we're just going to go from there and see exactly what takes place.
With Isaiah, he gets pretty excited. He was obviously excited. That was a game ender, so it was just kneel down after that. But how have you had to manage his kind of excitability and make sure he's doing, the right things on the field?
You know what? That's a part of him. So he's going to play excited regardless. So after every time he touches the ball, he has this juice and this energy. And I told you before, I want that same juice after every play call. Like, yeah, I just called that play. You know what I mean? So, but he's enjoying it. And you do not want to take that from him because that's a part of who he is. He loves that. It makes him, it re-energizes him for the next play. But that's something that Pacheco has within him, and we're just going to ride with it.
Last one, everyone. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
This is Eric Bieniemy. We'll hear from defensive line coach Joe Cullen coming up in just a little bit. A couple things. Second half, mentality is the same. Got to keep players focused and locked in. They got to learn to play every play. Goes along with maybe their focus was lost because they got a big lead. Justin Reed said that yesterday. And also Patrick Mahomes on Wednesday, still mad about a throw on Sunday. We'll get into more of that in a little bit. Here's Joe Cullen.
The football, in terms of Mike Leach, a legend, and his passing unexpectedly. Got to know Mike when I coached at LSU in 1999, and he was the offensive coordinator at Kentucky. But my condolences and prayers go out to his family and the Mississippi State family. I'll tell you what now, the Texans, you look at the game last week, they had the game won, ball's on the 2-yard line, they punched that in. Coach Smith had those guys going, and they play extremely hard. They've done a great job. The ball hadn't bounced their way, but they took a really good Dallas team to the brink and really had the game won there. They punched that thing in. So we got our hands full offensively. They got the 2 platoon system with the quarterbacks. Driscoll's does a great job. I remember when he gave us fits when I was at Baltimore at Cincinnati, doing the same type of packages, and Mills can make all the throws. He's a stand-in-the-pocket guy, but he can make every throw there is, and they got a heck of a running back. They got 2 or 3 really good wideouts, so we got our hands full, and with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Joe, the Brandon Williams you saw on Sunday in Denver, is that the Brandon Williams you remember?
Yeah, Brendan did a great job for coming in, and he's got familiar with the system, and he knows Coach Spags. There's some carryover, but he did. He went in there and gave us some really good snaps. He was physical, did a great job down on the goal line. I think we brought him here to knock the run out, but he was in on a half a sack. So he did some good things, and we just know we want him to continue to get better.
The Texans ended up playing a couple of quarterbacks last week, and more of a, not just some guy got hurt. They were doing it maybe the way you'd see it in college or in high school or something. What's that prep like for your guys? Because you don't know what they're going to do this week.
Well, really, they had done it all year, but in situations. But, last week it was within the series. It was, hey, you start this series. It was within the drive. So it's challenging, and you guys got to be on point. And Coach Spags has done a great job, and the staff has with the guys knowing that, what's going to happen. You never know, but what both quarterbacks do well. So we're ready for that.
Joe, the longest tenured guys in your group are Frank and Chris. I just wonder, coming in to a defense where those guys have had success previously, how you see them working this year, and how have you tried to sort of help them motivate the rest of the room given their tenure together?
Well, they've done a great job. Obviously, that was one of the big reasons I came here. My relationship with Coach Spags and then Coach Reed, but Frank and Chris have been tremendous. They're doing a great job in terms of leadership. They're playing their tails off, and I think they both have done a great job all year. Frank was on a roll, then obviously the suspension, but he came back, had two great games out of the gate there when he came back with the Chargers and the Rams, and I think both those guys are going to finish strong and continue to do what they've been doing.
Frank has obviously a history of having illnesses, or obviously trying to manage, I guess, what he intakes in order to obviously be at peak condition. Have you been a part of that previously with the player? And just, I wonder from your perspective how you try to maintain him or manage him as the game goes along if he does sort of feel an
Well,
illness.
he's had some bouts now. The Cincinnati game, anyone else wouldn't have played in the game. I will just say that and leave it at that. But Frank's a fighter. He's a warrior. And there was no way he was going to let his guys down. He played. He gave everything he had in that game. But it's just one of those things that he's had in the past, and he's done a really good job of watching what he eats and drinks and his body, and so he could play at peak top performance.
How challenging has it been for him? Because he's playing a lot thinner than he was before. He looks like a different guy than when he got here. It's a tough position to play when you've lost that kind of weight. What's it been like to watch him kind of battle through that part too?
Well, I think he's in the 240s range. He's been a little higher than that, but he's quicker, more explosive, and I don't think it slowed him down in terms of the physicality, and he's done a great job with that.
Last two, Pete and Kirby.
Coach Spags mentioned that he's been happy with the four-man pass rush. The key now is finishing. What's the coaching point behind finishing, especially this late in the year when you're not having maybe as many physical practices?
Well, the biggest thing about the four-man pass rush, and those guys have done a great job, and I think they'll all tell you they can do better, and we can do better, is that when they're all together, it's a thing of beauty. I'm talking about when all four are in unison and they're working towards the quarterback, they're at the level, staying alive in the hunt. Chris and Frank do a great job, Mike Dana, of coordinating that rush. So I think the biggest thing is just, don't chase the sacks, just do your job. Coach Spags calls the defense, whether it's a pressure, whether it's a four-man rush, do your job. And when you do your job, great things happen.
You talk about doing your job, great things happen. Karlaftis now has gone 3 straight games with a sack. What has gone into the light switch turning on for him?
Well, I think, as you look at earlier in the year, George was getting near the quarterback. He was getting close. And sometimes the pressure aspect of it, the hits, those will all start turning into sacks. And then there's been a lot where he's missed, where he's had him in the grass. The first play of the game last week, he had Russell Wilson right around the waist. Now, that's not easy. It's a lot easier than me standing here saying you're going to get that done. But just continuing to just getting better every week. And I always have said this, it's the hardest thing to do when you come into this league is rush the passer right away. Frank and Chris were talking about it with George. Both of those guys, Chris didn't start his first year. He was a situational player. Frank didn't start his first year. He was a situational player. So we've thrown a lot at George. He's handled it well. I just think he's going to continue to get better, and especially this last stretch.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
See, hopefully that is the case, that he continues to get better. And he has a few games in a row in which he has picked up a sack for this team. 3 straight games with a sack, Rams, Bengals, and then the Broncos. And he had one in which, in that game against Denver, where he and Frank Clark, the tackles didn't move for some reason. They both came around the edge. Karlaftis missed him. Clark wrapped him up. Here is Donald Delicio, the safeties coach.
You know, the season's been going well. The group of guys, you know, those 5 guys, they've done a great job just coming in every day. They're eager to learn. They want to work hard. They're ultra competitors. So, you know, it's easy when you have those traits. You know, they want to do the right thing every time they're out there. So it's an easy group for us to coach, and it's a lot of fun at the same time.
How have you seen Brian Cook developing? What have you really learned about him this year?
You know, Brian does an outstanding job. He is super smart. Every day he sits kind of right in front of me in the meeting, and he just takes notes after notes after notes. And he's a guy that he wants to be perfect. He's always wants to be coached, wants to do the right thing. And, you know, when he had his opportunity, when Juan was down that one game, he went in and, you know, he played extremely well for us. So we're happy with the progress that Brian's making.
How much is for, especially young defensive backs, is confidence and, you know, being able to put away a bad play?
Yeah, it's huge. You know, we always tell them, go to the next play, go to the next play. You know, it's a long football game. Those guys are out there, a lot of snaps, playing press, you know, and it's not an easy thing to do. So we tell them, you know, you may give up a play. Those guys are good too. This National Football League, when the time comes to make your play, go make it. But we're always reinforcing the next play. You got to have confidence at that position. That's kind of where it all starts with those guys.
What sort of challenge this week is there? I mean, the Texans obviously don't have a great record, and it's National Football League, as you said, but they might play a couple of quarterbacks, could be in the series doing that. Is the prep been a little bit different this week?
You know, it has. We take it one game at a time with all our guys in the room, and obviously we saw what they did against Dallas last week, who is a good football team, plays good defense. So that 2-quarterback system, we're definitely going to be aware of, you know, which guy's in the game. And, you know, our guys they'll be ready to play. You know, there's a lot at stake for us. And, you know, every opportunity we get to be out on the field, those guys want to take advantage of it.
We've seen Juan over the years, and especially his rookie year, flash that ball hawk interception type ability. And I think he's got one this year. But how do you continue to try to get him to lean into that a little bit of being aggressive in the right spots?
Yeah, he's doing a good job, you know, and he's in his spot. He's doing his job. And, you know, sometimes the ball just doesn't find those guys in the back end, which could be a good thing. You know, we got them covered. The quarterback doesn't want to throw the ball there. But, you know, we just keep harping on them, whether it's in practice, in the game, when the ball's thrown your way, when you have that opportunity, go take advantage of it. You know, we try to go get that ball first. So he's doing a good job, you know, doing his job. And when it comes, we always tell them they're going to come in bunches at the same time. So we're excited about that.
Last one. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there's Donald Delicio, the safeties coach for the Chiefs. Coming up next will be Greg Lewis, running backs coach, and then Andy Heck will wrap it up as the offensive line coach. So a couple of more out there at Arrowhead with the assistant coaches on this Thursday as we hear from them. And Eric Bieniemy and Steve Spagnuolo. And running backs are a big part of the conversation that we've had this week.
I think Andy Heck got credit for the final Pacheco run that iced it from Andy Reid this week. Saw a story about that this morning.
Okay. So we'll hear from Andy Heck after we hear from Greg Lewis, who is the running backs coach. Still want to get into Eric Bieniemy talking about Patrick Mahomes, and on Wednesday is still talking about a play that took place on Sunday in the game against the Broncos that he knew what they were in and still threw it to the wrong place, and it was bothering him to the point that Eric Bieniemy had, dude, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. So that's something I want to expand on a little bit with Patrick Mahomes and that sort of thought process and letting something like that eat at you when you're just so mad at yourself about something you felt like was so easy. Here's Greg Lewis.
So it was awesome to see.
Greg, both of your top 2 backs have been productive recently. What problem does that present in opposing defense when you come out with 2 guys that are really different players like you do?
I wouldn't say they're different players. As a running back group, our job is to be able to run and to be able to catch, and I think all the guys that are involved in this running back room can do that. It's just whose number is getting called and when, and taking advantage of those opportunities when they do. And for the most part, these past few weeks, McKinnon, Pop, they had opportunities to get in there and do their thing, and they've taken advantage of those opportunities.
That last drive in Denver, when you guys were in the 4-minute mode,
Mhm.
and you ended up running out the clock, those guys were both coming in and out of the game. How did you sort of decide in the moment, okay, it's Isaiah in here that one time, or McKinnon? How do you make that decision?
It's actually a juggling act that I get help with from Coach Reed and Coach EB and myself, and we sort of just figure out, we understand what certain guys do well in certain situations, and we try to put them in those situations to be successful. And I think we did a tremendous job of that, of putting them in those situations, and then those guys took advantage of them and sealed the deal for us. So it was great.
Take us back through the play that when McKinnon caught the kind of flip pass from Patrick. What was your view of that from the sideline, and what did you see on tape afterwards that those guys were just kind of on that page together?
The same thing y'all saw. My view was like, wow, that was pretty sweet. But McKinnon ran to the flat and got out there, and the defense started to press Pat. As running backs, we really emphasized getting to the flat and sitting down out there and being available for the quarterback. And then that's just Pat being Pat, having the awareness and eyes downfield and being able to see that and get it to him however he did, and then Jet finding a way to go catch it and then taking it 56 yards. So it was a great play by them. We practice as a running back room and from a quarterback standpoint of detailing our work and being at the right place at the right time, and good things happen when you do that. So it was great.
What's more satisfying as a coach, to see a play that's like perfect from the get-go, or a play like that where it kind of breaks down and they make something happen?
Winning is just winning. That's satisfies coaches. So however you do it.
Sorry, last two, PJ and Adam.
So, Coach, a lot's been made about the screen game, because of the plays last week. How do you teach your running backs to navigate that? I know there's a lot of blocking, but how do you teach them to navigate that space?
Well, it's some small details that I don't want to disclose because I don't want everybody else doing it against us. But Pop and Jed and Clyde and Rojo, Melvin, Ely, Bert, all those guys, we all work together and do the same thing, and they get the same coaching. And then it's just about having a good feel for getting out into space and understanding how the blocks are going to be set up and then executing. So those guys do a great job of taking the coaching that's being given and then putting it out on tape and executing the play at a high level.
Coach, we've talked a lot about that last run there by Pacheco. What kind of confidence does that give the running back room and then you as a positions coach to know that your guys can finish the game in a tough environment like that and being able to, because the knock on the Chiefs has been not being able to run the football, but you guys have been able to do that and you close the game out. What kind of confidence does that give you guys as a room?
The room itself is confident in itself from day one. And I'm a confident individual as a coach. Whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm coaching, whatever's asked of me to do, it's about putting in the time and the effort and the work to be successful when you get out on the field. So the confidence never waned. It's not higher or lower based off what has happened. We are confident and we expect to get the job done. As I've said before, the standard is the standard, and that's what we expect to get done. So it's not I don't want to pat us on the back or pat myself on the back. It's what we do and what we're supposed to do. And I got the guys in that room that will get it done.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, there's Greg Lewis, running backs coach for the Chiefs. Andy Heck, offensive line coach, will be at the podium here coming up in just a little bit. It is amazing the evolution of the running back room, where it was at the beginning of the season, the frustrations with that at the beginning of the season, wondering if Pacheco would figure it out with patience and, reading some of the defense rather than just getting the ball and going 100 miles an hour as fast as he can straight ahead. But it certainly turned into a nice 1-2 punch. Here is Andy Heck.
No, but we've communicated about, hey, let's get together and get a burger or something, so it'd be good to touch base with him. But Charlie plays stuff close to the vest now. He wouldn't give me anything, even if I tried to make him.
No trash talk going back.
No, that's not how we roll.
Not even a father-son bet? Who's paying for the burger?
Somehow, even though he's playing professional football, I end up paying for dinner. Yeah.
Just how proud are you of him getting in the league and kind of getting it done so far?
Yeah, I'm super proud of all my kids, certainly, but it's extra fun for me to have Charlie competing in this league in a sport that's so near and dear to our family. I love watching him, play and watching his growth from being, a tall, lanky soccer goalie to a tall, lanky tight end, and then on to now an NFL tackle.
We're middle of December now, and obviously a lot of people had their eyes on Orlando to start the year because of the contract stuff and all that, and he's pretty much kind of betting on himself, not signing a long-term deal. Where do you think he is right now, how he's performed for you guys, and what do you expect from him down the stretch?
Yeah, so Orlando is a true professional and loves the game. And so the thing I like about him and appreciate him is that he comes to work every day. He's into it. He understands. He sees what it is that we're trying to do and what he needs to work on, just like all of our guys. And he goes about the business of working at it every day. And so I've seen progress as we've moved through the season here. And it's going to be a work in progress for all of us. It always is.
Coach, there's some really nice PFF grades. I don't know what you guys use. Down the last month or so here, he's graded out very well. In your internal grading, does that kind of go along with what we've seen from some of those externals?
Yeah, I come away from every game and we grade them. I'm aware that there's PFF grades. I see some of them from time to time. I do rely on my own grades. And I would say that every game, we come away with every guy needing something to work on. Here's where we could be better. And then that's what we focus in on.
Coach Reed gave you a lot of credit for the call on the inside run to Pacheco to close out that game the other day. What was your expectations and what was your confidence that you thought that play was going to work?
You've heard the saying, let's plan the work and then work the plan. And so a lot goes into our preparation for these games and these critical situations. We try to put our guys in position to play to their strengths, as well as, when possible, go after where we see an opportunity in the defense we're facing. And so that's the fun part of the game, as we put together a plan, and then to watch our guys go out and execute it. For me, that's about as good a feeling as I can get in this sport since my days of being able to knock someone over are over.
Along those same lines, Coach, what are some of the benefits of lining up, a quarterback lining up under center and running from under center as an offensive line?
I would say that it allows you to put a running back in the home or dot alignment, which can give him a little better vision, as well as it can be a two-way go, left or right. That would be one advantage.
Couple more.
Coach, Lucas Niang has come back to the active roster, and how's he been looking, and how's Darian Kennard looking in his rookie season?
Yeah, so it's good to have Lucas back and working. I think he looks great. One of the things we love about him is his athleticism, especially for such a big man. His feet look tremendous. His pass sets he's picked up right where he's left off. He stayed into it mentally and been in, all of our meetings. Super sharp guy. So I like the work that he's been putting in. It looks good. And then DK or Kennard really has grown. We've seen him grow. He played the tackle position, and then we've been getting him some more guard work. I think he's got that kind of flex to whether he could play either or, but he's taken to that guard position in there and looks great.
You mentioned it takes you back to your old days of knocking people over. What did you think of Trey Smith's block on Justin Simmons when you went back and watched it on the tape?
Yeah, I made the comment to him that, hey man, this is illegal in 49 states. Apparently it's legal in Colorado. Honestly, it was one of those beautiful, sweet moments because besides the fact that he did it with violent, within the rules action, he executed the play, which takes some patience, some restraint, but then you got to get to where you got to get, and then let's go knock someone down. So it's a great feeling, and I asked him, I said, how does that feel? I mean, that's about as good as it gets for an old lineman. I mean, you take a guy, you drive him against his will, put him on his back, to put two guys down, and then spring your back and then feel that back go through for a score. That's a great feeling. So for me, to watch our guys execute in a moment like that, I feel great for them, and it brings me great joy. That's why I love coaching.
How many times did you do that in your career? Pancake a couple guys on the same play?
I don't know that I ever did. I mean, my game was a little different than Trey's. Yeah.
Coach, one of the things that you guys have to watch a lot in this offense is the
guys downfield, illegal man downfield sometimes on some of these plays. How difficult is that coaching part of it, especially when your quarterback may be scrambling and the way they're trying to kind of call that pretty close in the league?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we do coach, whether you're talking pass game where, things might be breaking down and now Pat's trying to get on the move and create. So our guys, I think, are, keenly aware of it. We had one a week or two ago, and we're just a step over that line as our guys are trying to work to extend. But you can also see that they're well aware of where they're at. And then in the run game, we run more RPO type plays than anybody in the league. There's a few others that are catching up or, doing a great job with it. But that's something that's part of that I've learned as I've evolved through my coaching career. Hey man, this is something you got to teach on this, because if it's a throw read, we can't be downfield. Our guys have done a pretty good job at buying into that and then executing it.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, there's Andy Heck, and that last part I want to get into just a little bit. So we talking about some things Eric Bieniemy said about Patrick Mahomes, Steve Spagnuolo in weighing in on some things about his team, and then Andy Heck on the offensive line. Darian Kennard moving inside to play guard. That's shocking. Who would have seen that coming? And turns out, hey, he's looked pretty good as a guard. Oh, you mean his whole life?
Oh, like 31 other NFL teams probably had him listed that way in their draft board.
Just
All
fine.
right.
Take him as a tackle, see if he works out. If not, then you feel like he can play guard, and hopefully he is looking good.
It wasn't Alex Leatherwood. They didn't go get him in the first round. That's not. I'm not complaining. Just
exactly right.
Sort of seemed like that was probably his best landing
absolutely.
spot.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Continue rolling. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
And I'm going to be doing some deep lunges.
Yeah, it won't be
down
distracting at all.
And back up. That's right.
Won't be distracting at all.
Make that booty pop.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We got some peppermint tea there.
Got a little peppermint tea going on.
Can immediately smell the peppermint.
Can you? Are you a peppermint guy?
Not at all.
Keep it over here.
Yeah.
Sit this cup outside.
My wife, huge fan of peppermint.
All right. Well, at least it's not me like being the biggest peppermint problem in your life.
No, there are plenty of peppermint problems in my life. If I had $1 for every peppermint problem I had, I'd have roughly 100 cents.
I had a little peppermint mocha creamer in my coffee this morning. I made a little peppermint tea. I haven't gotten any candy canes yet, but if I could find some, I'd be ready for candy cane season.
Are you just a fan of peppermint, or is it the type, the time of the year where maybe it's helping your voice, or
I think it's helping my Christmas spirit.
There you
go.
That
know,
works. Okay.
but I do love minty things. I love a York patty all months of the year. You know, I'm a big chocolate peppermint guy. Just peppermint in general. Big gum chewer typically. I try not to on the radio all that often because that's not always the. You don't always want that aesthetic, you know.
Not typically. No,
I might just get a big handful of like.
You keep doing it all the years I've done
isn't
shows with
Isn't
you.
that amazing, Beards? This is the aesthetic of
I have
chopping
some
into
audio evidence of Josh making very unpleasant noises into the microphone,
Nice
and also making silly noises.
It's nice to know that our next liner is accounted for because I haven't heard that one in a little bit. And
which one?
Just one of the bad noise ones. I don't know. Mouth noises.
We hear him make odd noises into the microphone 4 hours a day.
That's true.
It's odd noise. All right, so Christmas spirit.
Locked and loaded.
We are ready to go with the Christmas spirit and the holidays of sad fans.
Oh.
And the Denver Broncos sad fans, boy, they must have been really sad in the first half and then really excited and then sad again as it went along. Let's go ahead and take a listen as this week it is the Denver Bronco edition, one of the what will be two different Bronco editions of sad fans. Take it away, Beards.
And now, a list of things that Denver Broncos fans said on Reddit. God, I can't believe I'm watching this. Let's ride, I guess. Life sucks. I genuinely might hate Russell Wilson. Judy was literally at the sticks with no defender in sight. Russ. Nope. Double coverage throw. First throw is almost a pick. Let's ride. Mahomes' guard for his tiny-ass dolphin teeth is adorable.
It's the first time I've heard that one.
Nice. Let's take a sack and get us out of field goal range.
Never heard that he has weird teeth.
Comment. So what the hell is going on with Hackett's weird goatee?
Good question.
Reply. So people don't recognize him in public. Chiefs subreddit crying about their defense. LOL. I hate you, Russell Wilson, so much, you bum. On second look, I don't even know who Russell's throwing to. I am absolutely convinced that Hackett and the offensive side of the ball have a humiliation fetish at this point. God. Russ is Russ is going to get sacked like 10 times today. And the Kansas City pass rush isn't even good. Comment. Still no coverage on Kelsey. Reply. Haven't figured out in like 8 years. Why start now? Mahomes could fart the ball out of his cheeks for a completion. LMAO. He underhanded that like when I'm throwing to my 3-year-old son. Okay, when do we change the channel? I don't know if I hate myself this much. Higher number. Chiefs punts or Broncos point total. Broncos country, let's just punt on first down. There is still another 15 years of this, barring a catastrophic injury. This team is full of Madden-generated players. The Chiefs and Raiders are literally our f***ing fathers. We belong to them. Chiefs barely even celebrating the touchdowns. Crying, laughing emoji, crying, laughing emoji. They're just like, Yeah. At least the Fangio KC games were close and mildly competitive. This is humiliating.
Give it time, Broncos.
I can't believe how much we are and the bed these days, and the front office are doing absolutely nothing to change it. The Broncos' current draft pick is the 2nd or 3rd overall. The Seahawks will get a 2nd or 3rd overall pick and got rid of Russ. Comment. Seattle beat our ass in the Super Bowl and sunk our franchise by sending us Russ. Hate isn't enough of a word. Reply. We also traded with them to get Paxton Lynch. Wilson tried to one-up the Mahomes hook shot pass with a bounce pass. Imagine getting paid $250 million plus. It's 3rd and 30. And you throw it at the ground near the line of scrimmage. LOL, Russ is a bum. Anyone who defends him. Comment. After all these years, we haven't drafted a linebacker who can cover Kelsey? Reply. Waiting for him to retire, obviously. The long game. Am I the only one that thinks Carlactus would be a solid name for a transformer? Ha ha. Soul crushed. Breaking news. Broncos play their first game of professional football in 2022. Stop the presses. Best loss of the year, in my opinion. You know, Broncos could have grabbed Baker Mayfield from waivers. Why? People asked. Now you know why. And now, the runner-up. The way I have avoided going insane this season is by watching the Red Zone. That way, I literally never have to see Russell Wilson on the field. And now, the winner of things that Broncos fans said on Reddit. Some of y'all probably more times this week than Wilson touchdown passes this entire season.
Okay.
Well, what's the rest of that now? 10?
11.
11 now?
One away. One away from the bathroom.
Oh,
bathroom
from the
mark. Bathroom mark of 12. One away with 11. He got 3 of them, though. What that reveals in the sad fans is how the fans of Denver have also jumped on the punchline of Let's Ride.
Yeah.
That the Denver fans are using Let's Ride as a punchline. Not just outside of people having fun, they are punching themselves in the mouth and in the face with the Let's Ride. Like, you guys can't make fun of Let's Ride. We already do it.
It's our shame.
Yes. Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson. Masochist.
I'm so glad.
A humiliation fetish.
I'm so glad somebody mentioned the goatee also, because that also plays into it, because that was not a good look for Nathaniel Hackett.
We can't be recognized out in public. Oh, well done. Well
Good job,
done.
Beards.
All right, we will take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling, wrap up this hour, and Sports or Leisure coming up in the 1 o'clock hour presented by Johnny's Tavern. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards, heading up until 2 o'clock. 1 o'clock, we got Sports or Leisure, presented by Johnny's Tavern. News of the day so far. Bobby Petrino leaving Missouri State, heading west to be an OC.
Don't take a motorcycle.
For Barry Odom. You think he rides a motorcycle all the way to Vegas?
I would if I were him.
Like Ghost
This is why
Rider.
I'm saying don't do it.
Bobby Petrino, now the offensive coordinator of UNLV. He's always been a rebel anyway, so he just fits in Vegas. Bobby Petrino in Vegas. Name a better duo.
I looked this up earlier. I don't remember what the number was now, but UNLV hasn't had a winning head coach in like 40 years. So Barry Odom, good luck out there. I was sort of confused as to how Barry Odom got that head coaching job, but then I looked at UNLV's head coaching history and thought, well,
hey, I hope he does well. And by the way, Barry Odom, on his staff at one point, the offensive coordinator was Josh Heupel, and the defensive coordinator was Ryan Walters. Walters now the head coach for Purdue.
What have those guys ever done?
Heupel, head coach at Tennessee. Which, by the way, did you see the video of Ryan Walters' introduction to the team? It was a little different than Deion Sanders. I'm coming and I'm bringing luggage, and it's Louis. His introduction was, I don't even remember the player's name, but he was like, hey, before we get rolling, I just wanted to get something, out of the way real quick. We played against you guys, at Illinois, and there was a dude that, did blah, 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 talking about that. And he's like, and I looked up, man, I'm like, this dude's a walk-on. Like, what do you guys got going on over there? So first order of business is that, Devin, you're now on scholarship.
Yeah, cool.
I'm your new head coach, guys. All right, ready? Let's get a little different than Deion. Now you are talking about taking over a team that just played for the Big Ten championship game, as opposed to a team that people don't remember is in the Pac-12, and they remember Colorado from like Rashaan Salam and Michael Westbrook and / Cordell Stewart. So Bobby Petrino heading out west to UNLV.
In the interest of correctness, Tony Knapp, 1976 to 1981, went 47, 20, and 2 as the head coach of UNLV.
What did he do after that? Where'd he go? Like Alabama or something? Or, you have success there at UNLV. Get hired immediately.
He retired and lived to the ripe old age of 96.
Good for him.
Sounds like a pretty good life.
How about that? Good for him. The other bit of news, we played it earlier in the show. I don't know, maybe we'll play it 2 or 3 more times before the show is over. The executive director of the Liberty Bowl saying that it's baloney that Missouri did not want to play Kansas. In fact, they had fought for Arkansas all along. Missouri went to the SEC and said, we deserve the Liberty Bowl because we've beat them. And the Liberty Bowl executive director had to then go to the SEC and say, no, we want Arkansas.
Now on Sports Radio 810 Sports Center.
This Sports Center is brought to you by Pajamagram. Ignite passion this holiday season with Spark of Romance pajamas. Head to pajamagram.com today and order Spark of Romance pajamas, and they'll even wrap it up for you with free gift packaging. Yesterday, the Chiefs activated the 21-day practice window for wide receiver McCole Hardman, who still remains on IR. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid said yesterday, "We'll just see how he does in this ramp-up process. Haven't determined to play or not play. We're just going to ease him back and see where he's at." Everyone else was scheduled to practice each of the last 2 days. Meanwhile, in college basketball, Kansas and Missouri will follow up their border showdown matchup with Mizzou taking on UCF Saturday morning and the number 8 Jayhawks hosting the number 14 Indiana Hoosiers Saturday at 11. Coverage begins at 9 o'clock right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Next up in the zone, we play Sports or Leisure. Call in now, 913-3-810-810. This is Sports Center.
You're into sports, but nothing wrong with a little leisure time. Why not both?
You're going to have a heart attack by the time you're 40 if you don't learn to relax.
It's time for sports or leisure on The Zone with Jason Anderson.
All right, 913-3-810-810. Time for a little sports or leisure. You know, Josh was satisfied with himself on the sports or the Sports Center there.
It was an average one. It wasn't a disaster.
Okay.
Did I say something wrong, or you have a fact check?
No, not
Okay,
at all.
okay.
Not at all. You know, I'm going to speak up for the group before you get the. Oh, excuse me. Before
Did I misrank somebody?
No. Before
Oh,
I get the
God.
texts.
You're gonna get the texts
or tweets or anything. K-State also in action on Saturday against Nebraska at the T-Mobile Center, 6:30.
Only so much room in the
right,
Sports Center. I was specifically doing the border showdown follow up.
I heard
but
that.
You're right. You're right.
Mizzou plays UCF, KU with a big one against Indiana, and then K-State playing in our own backyard on Saturday at T-Mobile against Nebraska.
That's fair. I certainly could have found some room for that in the Sports Center. I'm gonna go ahead and change my grade on that one to a 6 out of 10. I'm gonna say 6, maybe 6.25.
No, I mean, a big part of the Sports Center is giving out the information. I mean, I don't know.
I had Andy Reid's entire quote from yesterday. I mean, that's something. Or Monday, I guess. No, it was yesterday's. Yeah, we're good.
In just while trying and in the effort and danger, I should say.
Danger's the right word.
With the danger and the risk of being the mouthpiece for K-State. I do want to get that out there that
you're absolutely correct.
They're also playing Nebraska.
Absolutely correct.
Saturday, 6:30.
I had a whole thing about Sean Miller in the IARP that I've got written down. Didn't even need that.
That line from DraftKings for K-State, Nebraska, that will be out later, but probably close to 2, since Ken Pom has it as a 2-point win for Kansas State for Saturday. KU, Indiana, that line not out yet. I'm going to guess it's somewhere around 5, as Ken Pom has KU winning by 5 over Indiana.
It's just, it makes a lot of sense that in this world where I'm pretty sure I can bet on like who the Chiefs are going to open the 2023 season against, that you have to wait until 7 minutes before tip-off before you can get a freaking college basketball line.
Yeah, for sure. And then where are they at? Tampa? At Tampa for Mizzou and UCF. I know they're playing UCF, but it's not in Orlando.
No, it would be
in Tampa. That is a 2-point loss for Mizzou, according to Ken Pom. So expect that game to be somewhere around 2 when the line comes out. That is also known as a semi-away, which is a joke that I'm not going to make. Where, oddly enough, K-State and Nebraska, it's viewed as neutral, according to Ken Pom on his side. I don't know. It's viewed as neutral. He views Mizzou and UCF as a, quote, semi-away game, even though that's in Tampa and they play in Orlando, whereas Manhattan to Kansas City.
I also had this one wrong on UCF. I was too sure too quickly. They're playing in the FLA Live Arena, which is where the Panthers play.
But that's like Tampa, though, right?
So that's Sunrise.
Sunrise and
which
Sunset.
Is closer. The Panthers are closer to Miami. The Gasparilla Bowl will be at Raymond James Stadium. That's in Tampa proper. This has been Florida Geography with Josh.
Okay. So how far away from Tampa is Sunrise?
Efforting.
You're the one with Florida Geography, man.
Well, I Googled it, and it gave me the time of sunrise in Tampa, Florida. 7:14 a.m. tomorrow morning. The sun comes up in Tampa.
Yeah, essentially it's just
4 hours. It's about a 4 hour drive. Sunrise is is just north of Miami. Tampa's on the other side.
You know what? For some reason I was saying Tampa, and I was thinking Lauderdale. When I said Tampa, I was thinking Lauderdale. So where's Sunrise from Lauderdale?
Sunrise is just north of Miami. So it is South
probably
Florida.
Between that and Lauderdale? There we go. There's your geography for today. You know what? Florida Geography, sports or leisure.
Sunrise, Fort Lauderdale, right next door.
Okay, great. I was saying Tampa, but thinking Lauderdale.
We've been talking about Tampa because of the Gasparilla Bowl.
Gas Bowl.
The Gas Bowl.
Professionals, how do they know I got gas?
Look at that.
913-388-1010. Sports or leisure, $25 for Johnny's Tavern on the line. If you get a sports question and a leisure question right, you win. Either of them wrong, you lose. The question is out there available for someone to call in and request if they know the answer to it or they have Googled. It doesn't matter. We try to get out as many winners as possible. And we give out the answer when somebody answers it correctly or we're out of time playing the game. 913-388-1010. Here are the categories on the sports side. We've got general NFL. We also have Kansas City Texans, Chiefs, and Texans. Not Dallas Texans and not Oilers. Chiefs and just Texans. We have Heisman Trophy questions, and we have a couple World Cup questions for those that may want a soccer question or two. So that is those are the categories on the sports side. What about leisure, Josh?
We have the remainder of the read a book category. We give you an iconic book. You tell us the author. We have the commonly misspelled word spelling bee, but we have the return of a couple of OG sports or leisure categories today.
OG.
Are you smarter than a fifth grader?
Nope.
Just runs the gamut of some fifth grader levels of trivia that I like to think you should be able to get, but I'm not sure I would have swept the board. And then the return of the Rotten Tomatoes game. This is, again, like years old sports or leisure that I have brought back. Here's how the Rotten Tomato game works. I give you a movie that's come out recently. I'll either ask you for the critic or the audience score. I try not to pick one that's too big a disparity unless it's really funny. And I say, hey, what is the Rotten Tomatoes fresh percentage for this movie on RottenTomatoes.com? And if you get within 10% in either direction, if I give you a movie that's a 50 and you say 40 or 60 or anything in between, you win. So you got a 20-point margin of error there to try to figure out how most likely the critics have been viewing some of the box office's biggest blockbusters.
Okay. 913-388-1010. Johnny's Tavern, $25 given away in sports or leisure. I'm ready to go. Josh, good to go?
I'm good to go. Beards, you ready to go?
Sure.
All right, let's head to the phone lines and we bring in Lucas leading us off on this sports or leisure Thursday. Lucas, what side would you like to start with, sir?
Can we start with general NFL?
Yes, you can. Let's see, general NFL for you. Jalen Hurts, this was a couple weeks ago. He threw for 153 yards and ran for 157. He's the fourth player in the Super Bowl era to pass and rush for 150 in the same game. Name one of the other three in the first one up. Name one of the other three quarterbacks to rush for 150, pass for 150. Really should say two or three of them, but
you're
going to get off to
two of them.
I mean, the easy one's Michael Vick, right?
He would be the first one to do it.
That's what I think you got to get. I think it's the second one.
All right, name two.
Oh, man.
You should have really struggled with it. Like,
probably Lamar Jackson. Probably.
That's
there
it.
you go.
He was the second. He was the third one to do it before.
Did Kaepernick do it?
That would be the
There
other one.
we go, baby.
Vic, Kaepernick, Lamar, and Jalen Hurts. On to leisure with Josh.
What category do you like, Lucas?
Can we read a book?
Let's read a book. And really, all you got to do, you don't even have to read the dang thing. All you got to tell me is who wrote Catcher in the Rye.
J.D. Salinger?
An absolutely titanic performance by you today, Lucas. That's absolutely right.
I thought Jared Sullinger played for Ohio State.
Yeah,
He's
it's
also
a different.
an author?
No relation. No relation, actually. It's,
All right.
The initials change the whole game.
Okay. We will we'll put you on hold, Lucas, and get your information. Congratulations.
Perfect. Thank you.
One up, one down, and like with a quickness too. No dilly dallying.
No, not at all. Solinger played with Kraft, who was at the cookout for Bruce Pearl when the picture was presented to him at Tennessee, and he lied to the NCAA about having a recruit at a cookout. That got him fired, and now he's at Auburn. And also, he wrote Catcher in the Rye.
He wrote Catcher in the Rye.
In this whole thing.
Which, not to be confused with JT Realmuto, who is a catcher, but has nothing to do with what I presume is the bread.
That smile of yours, it's so dry. Sean, next up, Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sean, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
What's up, fellas?
What's up, buddy?
I took a week off last week, but I'm back.
You're good, man. You took a week off just to prepare, get ready.
That's exactly right. You're ready today.
You know, now
I can hear it in your voice.
Now you're good to go, rested and ready.
Hey, believe it or not, I'm going for number 14 right now.
Wow.
I've won 13 of those gift cards this year.
Oh. Well, we got to let you go, Sean. So,
See you, Sean.
Appreciate it.
See you,
Probably shouldn't have said that. You know, I've 0 for 15. I'm really trying to get that first one.
The Houston Texans here.
There's some stockings being stuffed around Sean's family. That's for sure. All right, sports or leisure, Sean. What side do you want to start with, bud?
Let's go sports. Let's try it. I guess I was going to do the Texans, but I think I'll do just a general NFL.
Okay, general NFL for you. All right, let's do this one. A.J. Brown went over 1,000 yards for the season this past weekend. Who's the last Philadelphia wide receiver to surpass 1,000 yards receiving in a season?
Oh, my goodness.
Last Philly wide receiver to catch 1,000 yards a season. Wide receiver. Because tied in now for the Arizona Cardinals.
Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz had 1,000 yards receiving, but wide receiver. Wide receiver. And I'll tell you, you know what, Sean, there's a local connection here.
A local connection?
Local connection with this player that had 1,000 yards receiving for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's no longer playing football.
That rules out. Does that rule out T.O.?
Yep. That would rule out T.O.
T.O. was coming to mind.
Yeah. I mean, I would help you a little bit more, but I don't want to tamper with this whole thing.
So he played for the Chiefs. He played for the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Local connection.
Mm-hmm.
The last person I think that's probably Jeremy Maclin, I think.
Well done. Jeremy Maclin. You may have been thinking when I dropped the I don't want to tamper with this whole game here for you. That might have helped you along the way. But Jeremy Maclin, the last one since so A.J. Brown. Jeremy, no wonder they traded for A.J. Brown in the first round. Like, we should probably get a guy that can catch 1,000 yards. All right, on to leisure with Josh.
You got a category?
Let's try a new. I always do spelling bee. Let's try a new one. Let's do Are You Smarter?
Okay, are you smarter than a fifth grader? What are the 3 types of rock?
Chris, the
hard rock, classic rock.
Hard. That's right.
And I.
You talking about music? No music.
No, this is in the geological sense. Thank you, Beards. I was going to say the geographic sense. I knew that wasn't right. In the geological sense.
Yes. Lighthearted and classic.
I think I know. We got sedimentary. I think I know that. That's one.
That is one.
And then I don't know if I can say it right. Igneous or igneous.
That's 2. That's 2.
Igneous?
Sedimentary and igneous.
I don't know the third one. I knew those 2. I don't really know the third one. Let's see here.
I'm not even going to give you a hint because I don't have the answers in front of me. That's why I can't give you a hint. I don't know what they are.
Here's just a little fact about the third type of rock. They start out as some other type of rock, but have been substantially changed from their original igneous, sedimentary, or other form. These are rocks that have been changed. That is so interesting.
So it's okay. So it's more something more. What is it? Metamorphic.
Wow. I thought we were putting the challenge up for you this
My
week.
goodness.
I really thought this might be the time we get you. That is a victory.
Sean, nice job, sir. Put you on hold and get your information. Congratulations on your first win this year. Awesome, brother. There you go, man. Hey, 2 for 2. It's a good start.
It is a good start. We're on fire.
It's a good start. 913-3-810-810. Let's go to Avery and keep it rolling here on Sports Radio 810. A little sports or leisure, $25 to Johnny's Tavern. Avery, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with, bud?
I have never won this game.
Eventually you'll get one.
First time caller, long time listener. Appreciate you being here.
I'll start with World Cup.
That's a sports category, I believe.
I didn't know what he said.
The
Sorry.
World's Cup.
Okay, I thought he said Wilco. I thought you said Wilco.
I have a Wilco category. I just haven't brought up yet. I thought it was too niche.
It's like, wow, is there? I thought maybe you asked a question we didn't get an answer to, and he was like, "I'll take the Wilco one."
I'll work on a Wilco question for you, Jason.
Argentina advanced to its 6th World Cup final coming up on Sunday, tying Italy for the 3rd most all time. Name the 2 countries with more World Cup finals appearances than Argentina and also Italy.
Brazil and Germany.
Name 5 countries that have more.
What on the leisure side?
I should have asked you. I should have asked you the tougher of the 2.
I don't know. That was look. He made it sound easy. I don't think that was a gimme question.
He might have spent half his life in Germany and half his life in Brazil.
It's totally possible.
Might have been the only question he knew about the World Cup. He just happened to be pitched to. You know.
Don't ask me about Wilco, but what other category can I give you?
I'll do the author book thing.
All right. Who wrote? I read this recently. I enjoyed it very much. Who wrote Slaughterhouse-5?
Kurt Vonnegut.
Unbelievable.
I'm not past 3 yet. I'm gonna get there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Get there.
So actually, the fun thing is really it's like with Godfather. You can actually skip Slaughterhouse 3, but 1, 2, 4 really important
Well,
to
that
understand.
3's the one that I'm so
no.
excited about.
Oh God. Well,
jeez Louise.
Skip
man.
the last 15 pages at least. They're non-canonical at this point. It's all.
So Wilco also wrote that book.
What
are the odds?
Yeah.
Avery, will put you on hold. Congratulations. Look at that. Luck of the Irish. You finally got one in your life.
Hey, winner, David Schwimmer. Thanks, guys.
Hi.
I don't really have any great Wilco trivia for you yet.
Yeah, I don't either. I would probably ask Todd or something if there was. I think he likes and enjoys Wilco. I don't know.
Did you know that Wilco rose from the ashes of alt country band Uncle Tupelo, who disbanded in 1994.
What are they? A phoenix?
Yes, that is how it is written on Songfacts.com.
Why weren't they named Phoenix and not Wilco?
Should have been Phoenix.
All right, let's go to John next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. John, sports or leisure? What side do you want to start with, sir?
Oh, you know you're a fan when you get a fill out of W2 for sports or leisure. Let's go with leisure.
What category do you like? You can read a book, spell a word, be smarter than a 5th grader, or play the Rotten Tomatoes game.
Let's do a book question.
All right. Everyone's been very literate these last couple of weeks. This one, I think, is an easy one, but tell me who wrote The Lord of the Rings?
Oh. Shoot. Isn't it Golding?
Beards had to drop the hammer on that one like an orc in Mordor.
Beards was like, no,
it wasn't.
No, it wasn't, dumbass.
He was very rude about it. It was the rudest I've ever seen.
Ridiculous.
You
thought it.
You thought it.
I saw it.
You saw it.
Apologize to John, Beards.
Beards got judged you.
Yes. John, thank you for playing, man. I appreciate it. No matter what Beards thinks of you, I like you. All right.
Get the Dodger tax forms that way.
That was rude, Beards. Oh, I saw it. I mean, I could see even it's like the cartoon bubble conversation that popped up right in your head.
There would have been steam coming out of his ears, but his headphones are actually holding it in. That's the only reason you couldn't see it shooting out of his ears.
All right, John, next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. John, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
I'll start with the J.R.R. Tolkien question.
I think that's leisure, Josh.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted,
leisure.
No,
Yeah,
you're good.
leisure.
I just wanted Beards to hit the bell. I thought he'd be excited that somebody came in with the authority he was expecting.
I thought whenever somebody does that, we play the game of, then we'll read the
Oh,
question.
sorry. I just thought Beards would be so excited that he was going to ring the bell.
I mean,
Absolutely, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Play the part, Josh.
Sorry, everybody. Sorry.
Come on, man.
First show.
Are you a rookie here?
Yeah.
My goodness.
When you guys hesitated, I thought I had it wrong.
No, that would have been rough though, because you were confident, but you were right.
I look over at Josh, and Josh is just staring back at Beards, and Beards is on the phone, and I'm like, what are we doing here? I mean, are we going to ask, what are we doing here?
Sorry, I wanted to make you sweat.
All right, on to the leisure sports side. NFL, Kansas City Texans, Heisman, and one other World Cup question.
Let's go Heisman.
All right, Heisman. Let's see, is there some... yeah, that's exactly right. There are now 5 players to win the Heisman Trophy that transferred to a new school and won the Heisman with that school they transferred to. Since going back to the 70s, I figure after that I'm not even going to look anymore. So I'll just say since I went all the way back to 1970. I don't care. Since the 70s. Who was the first?
Whoa.
The first player to transfer and then win the Heisman at their new school. There have been 5 now. I mean, if you just start thinking of the 5, you'll eventually get to the first.
I guess if I knew all 5, I could do that. Man.
Well, we had a string of a number of them in a row. Because Caleb Williams is the 5th one to do that. Yeah, because he transferred from Oklahoma. Oklahoma transfers.
Baker and
Kyler. Baker's one, Kyler's one, Caleb's one. There's 3. That means there's 2 more out there.
The Lincoln Riley group guys.
Won the Heisman. Transferred.
Oh, man. My guess is this probably doesn't go back that far.
At least since the 1970s.
Yeah, that's
but yes, it does
starting to feel like a red herring.
It does not go
I
back.
guess, guys, I still think of people transferring as much back then.
Yeah, that's why I just stopped. I'm like, nobody's transferring. All right, I'm just going to stop, and I'm not going to go back and look at the 1940s and 50s. Don't care enough.
Yeah, man,
it's really since the 2000s as well. So,
what's that?
So it's really since the 2000s as well. I mean, just, in this century.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were saying the answer was in the guy in the 70s.
No, they've all. I'm just saying I went back as far as the 70s to see if this person was the first, and then I just stopped. And so I'm like, since the 70s, he's the first one to do it. I think he's the first one ever to do it because I don't think people were transferring really before that. But it's in this century. All 5 are in this century.
Okay, that changes it then. You had me thinking Archie Griffin and guys like that. Like, where did they start?
No, I get it. That's.
I am almost positive. I don't know if this is the first one. Almost positive Cam Newton.
There you go.
Transferred. I think is that it?
Cam Newton. He was at Florida. Then he was at Glenn. Then he was at Auburn. The one you're missing, Joe Burrow. Because we had 3 in a row: Baker, Kyler, Burrow. 3 straight quarterbacks that transferred, and then we had Devontae Smith in between there.
Correct, and then Bryce Young and Caleb Williams.
Oh, Bryce Young and then Caleb Williams. Yeah. So 4 of the past 6 Heisman winners have been transfer quarterbacks. So Cam, the first one though. John, over to is that a winner? Or John.
You showed up with J.R.R. Tolkien, right? It's been a long time. Sorry,
sorry, man.
It's been a long journey. What's the full title?
Long show. John,
an unexpected
well done,
journey.
Sir.
Is what it's
Put
been.
you on hold. Get your information. 913-381-810, $25. Johnny's Tavern on the line. We take a time out. We come back. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
What's the categories?
Yes,
I don't
sir.
know what's going on here.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, welcome back here in the Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, 913-3810810, playing some sports or leisure, $25 at Johnny's Tavern. Real quick to refresh the categories on the sports side. NFL, Kansas City Texans, Heisman, and one World Cup question. What about on the leisure?
We got read a book, a few more books remaining. You got to tell us the author. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? Trivia questions that you could see on a fifth grader's test. And then the Rotten Tomatoes game, I give you a movie. You tell me what the percentage is on Rotten Tomatoes within 10% either direction, and you win if you're ready to really channel your inner critic.
There we go. All right, let's go to Jonathan next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jonathan, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with?
Let's start with the leisure Rotten Tomatoes question.
Thank you very much for taking the bait there. I would like to have a brief discussion about Violent Night. This is an R-rated Christmas movie starring David Harbour as a killer Santa of Stranger Things fame. What is the critical review percentage for Violent Night on Rotten Tomatoes? You get a 10% buffer in either direction.
Is that a comedy?
Okay, so
or is it a
yeah,
horror?
I've seen the trailer. I was intrigued.
Me
And
too.
it looks like a horrible movie. Let's go 67%.
It's potted down really low. Didn't mean to keep you waiting. 72% from critics. A very close dart throw, though.
Wow.
Good work there. Violent Night. Apparently certified fresh.
What about the audience?
88% from the
Wow,
audience.
how about
So
that?
I might have to
Okay.
check this one out.
Maybe. I don't know. Is it a horror comedy?
It's
type?
I think that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get a specific genre, but
I don't look at him and think this guy is a leading man horror film
Wikipedia
actor.
says action comedy.
action comedy is
There
a
we
good
go.
way. Horror's probably a little too spooky. Action comedy.
Action comedy. I like it.
John
yeah.
Leguizamo's in it.
Well, how about that? All right, on to the sports side, sir. What category are you thinking, Jonathan?
Let's do general NFL.
All right, Jennifer. NFL.
Let's go Jennifer NFListon.
We got Colonel NFL, no General NFL. Let's go with this. Two players hold the Chiefs' overall record for longest rushing play at 91 yards. Who are they? The longest rushing play in Chiefs history is 91 yards. Two players share that record.
Okay, rushing play.
I think I came up with this after Mahomes
caught
had a big
you
rushing.
caught the guy that's not watched the Chiefs his whole life.
All right, let's switch it up then. No big deal. No big deal. That's
you
fine.
sure?
No. I will switch it up. Not a big deal. Christian McCaffrey now has 11 career games with both a rushing and receiving touchdown, tying Jim Brown for fourth most all time. Name any of the three players that have more than McCaffrey's 11 career games with a rushing and receiving touchdown. Three players. More than he and Jim Brown. Any of those players.
I am still here, I promise.
No, you're good.
Me
You're good.
too, dude. I was also sad. I just
Brisco sits
leaned back in my chair thinking,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I've got one I want to be true, but might not be.
Okay, let's go Marshall Faulk.
He is the most all time.
That makes a lot of sense.
Nice job. Marshall Faulk has 15, so McCaffrey not far behind.
No.
He's got 11. Lenny Moore has 12, and Brian Westbrook 12.
Ah,
About that, yeah.
interesting.
So outside of Marshall Faulk, it would have been a tough one to
Yeah, that's a
figure out.
toughie.
So, all right, Jonathan, put you on hold and get your information. Congratulations. Nice job. Well done. 913-381-0810. Well-earned win.
Dinner and a movie now. Go watch Violent Night, and then go to Johnny's. Boom.
That's right. Let's bring in Paul next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Paul, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with?
Let's try Kansas City Texans.
Thank you. My goodness,
This
man.
is how I feel when I have the pun name game, man.
Jeez Louise.
This is what I worked on.
Got so many fun ones to do. All right. An on-again, off-again relationship with the Chiefs in his career in the offensive line. He played a couple of years in Houston, sandwiched around beginning and ending his career in KC, including getting a Super Bowl ring with the Chiefs in 2019. He never blocked for Baker Mayfield, but now his job is supporting and promoting a Baker he's very close to.
It's a good one, Jason.
Thank you. My most fun that I have in these is writing the questions.
Now, this one's excellent. This is a very good one.
Thank you. Chiefs Texans played a number of years with the Chiefs, then a couple years with the Texans, then back with the Chiefs, and his last year was that Super Bowl year in 2019. But now his main job outside of football is supporting a baker, promoting a baker.
Trying to think of that offensive line. I don't think Cam Irving ever played for the Texans.
Mm-mm. No longer in football, this fella.
Which might be a surprising way of a lot of people learning that Cam Irving is still in football.
That's a good point.
But it's true.
It's a very good point.
It's a Panther, right?
This guy's also he has a presence on Twitter as well. So if you're into that sort of thing, want to throw a dart? Yes.
Man, was he a starting offensive lineman?
Rotational piece. An on-again, off-again sort of, he's out there, let's kick the tires, let's move on, let's kick the tires, let's move on. One of those things.
Man, that's like the one I don't know. Martinez Rankin.
You know, that
Dude,
is a
it's
heck of a pull, but it's not correct.
He was a Texan
Rankin
also,
wasn't-
though. Is he did he blow a different question for you there?
I didn't use him because I thought he'd be too difficult.
Very difficult. Very difficult.
Paul, thank you for playing, man. Well done. I mean,
a really good effort there.
913-381-810-810. I mean, I guess I should have used Martinez Rankin instead of him. But
I think you did okay.
Evan next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Evan, sports or leisure? What side do you want to start with?
Hey, guys. Let's start with leisure. Try the book one.
Okay. All I need from you is to know who wrote. This one's easy. Fahrenheit 451.
Still on that third one.
Fahrenheit 450 is not as good.
I'm on Fahrenheit 3.
Oh, you got a long ways to go.
Yeah, I know. Just not a reader.
Oh, yeah. I'm the son of an English teacher. I'm gonna be disowned if I. Ray Bradbury.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Thank goodness
Nice
you
job.
are still the child of an English teacher.
Job. All right, on to the sports side, sir. NFL, Kansas City Texans, Heisman, and a World Cup question.
Let's do general NFL.
General NFL for you. Okay, so we got can't do that one because that's sort of a crossover in the answers. Tom Brady with another comeback. Monday Night Football. It's his 44th fourth quarter comeback in his career. It's now the most all time. Who did he pass? He was tied with this quarterback at 43. He now passed him. 44 fourth quarter comebacks for Tom Brady.
Can I get a decade?
Since the 80s.
Since the 80s.
I'll just say since the 80s.
I'll go with what I think is the obvious one, but not sure. Joe Montana.
He is in the top 5, but he was not number 1 before. Evan, you're the man. Appreciate it. You are not disowned by us or your family.
That's exactly right. That's what really matters.
That's you know what? You still got that going for you, which is nice. You can show your face around the holidays at the table with your mom.
And here.
And here, too.
Maybe your dad didn't say. This could have been one of those the doctor's his mother sort of tricks.
Oh, my goodness.
I was really careful about that.
Oh, wow.
I was going to make a joke about either his dad or his mom, but I was like, hold on.
Look at me.
I know.
Just gender stereotyping English teachers.
I think all of my English teachers, all of my English teachers until college were women.
All of mine were women.
I think I had mostly male English teachers.
There we go. We've got some gender diversity amongst white guy here. Good for us.
My life experience has been only female English teachers. How about that?
My first English teacher was my mom, so that one I guess would also make me the child of a teacher. I guess.
And does she speak English? Therefore, you're a child of an English teacher. Ryan, you are next up. Sports or leisure, sir? What side do you want to start with, Ryan?
Let's start with sports.
Okay, we got general NFL. We've got Kansas City Texans, Heisman, and a World Cup question left.
Is the Texans question with the offensive lineman available?
It is still available. I'll read it again. An on-again, off-again relationship with the Chiefs in his career on the offensive line. Played a couple of years in Houston, sandwiched around beginning and ending his career in KC, including getting a Super Bowl ring with the Chiefs in 2019. He never blocked for Baker Mayfield, but now his job is supporting and promoting a Baker he's very close to.
Jeff Allen?
That is correct. That is correct.
An excellent clue.
His wife is a baker and owns two different cookie bakeries. So there you go. Jeff Allen, on to leisure with Josh.
What category would you like? We can read a book, we can rank a movie, we can be smarter than a fifth grader.
Let's do the Rotten Tomato rank a movie.
All right. Big, highly, really highly sought after sequel. It's been in production for like a decade. Avatar 2, The Way of Water, has been reviewed only by critics so far. I got 195 critic reviews. What percentage of them said that Avatar, The Way of Water is fresh?
Go 80.
82.
Wow.
You guys have been incredible on the Rotten Tomatoes game today.
You guys is in 2.
Both.
Both.
Like an Avatar, you can have one version and the second one about 10 years later, and the third one's never happening.
Exactly right. Ryan, well done. We'll put you on hold, get your information. Congratulations, sir. 913-381-810 is the phone number. Let's bring in Andrew next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB, a little sports or leisure on this Thursday. Andrew, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Is that question about the Chiefs running backs still there?
You know, it is still there. If nobody was going to ask it, I was going to, or ask for it, I was going to table it to next week. But let's do that. Two players hold the Chiefs' overall record for longest rushing play at 91 yards. Who are those players?
Well, there was, he got caught at the end, but Damian Williams.
He got caught by Tyreek.
Wow,
Tyreek.
yeah.
That's right. The 91-yarder against the Vikings. And
was the other one Jamal Charles?
The other one was Jamal Charles.
Against the Saints?
Yep, Jamal Charles Saints and Damian Williams against the Vikings. So nice job on to leisure with Josh.
Rotten Tomatoes, fifth grader, or the books?
Let's go fifth grader.
All right. What is the most abundant element in the universe?
Oh, carbon or nitrogen?
I might have gotten this one wrong. I realized I was putting these together today. May have been incorrect about myself.
I'm going to go nitrogen.
Oh, no.
It's the other one, isn't it?
What I mean, Andrew's our final contestant.
Oh, really?
Because
okay.
The assistant coach day
always
sets us back in sports or leisure. We've got to push a bunch of
Hey, you know what?
spots
Take another shot at it.
Carbon?
Oh, no!
Sorry, that was
Not
mean. I heard you say
either.
carbon. No, it's
darn
hydrogen. I didn't know that till today. That's the number one on the table of elements, though, top left corner, so that might have been why.
Andrew, thanks for playing, man. I appreciate it, sir. You know what?
I hate that the last word there is him ugging off the line.
Here's
because
the thing. If I went and asked a random fifth grader right now what the answer to that is, he ain't telling me hydrogen. All right.
I got it off of a list of other fifth grade caliber questions. I never claimed that I would have aced fifth grade.
Never claimed you would have aced fifth grade. I don't know.
Not even now.
How old were you when you were taught fifth grade?
19.
You'll get there, man. Josh passed the fifth grade. Oh, what a glorious day. Movie, Josh?
No idea.
Get out of here.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
Scott Graham here from Westwood One. Coming up on Thursday Night Football, NFC West action with the hottest team in football. The 9-4 San Francisco 49ers taking on the Seahawks in Seattle. Can Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers win a 7th straight? Join me, Kevin Kugler, and Ryan Harris to find out. On air and on the free live stream sponsored by AutoZone on Thursday Night Football.
Right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Cheers to Prilosec OTC. Without Prilosec, I wouldn't be able to enjoy all this yummy holiday food. Speaking of, whoever made that...
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
That's half of it, right?
That's half of it. We got a leisure question. You want to go Trivindiana, Marvel questions, spelling bee, or 4th grade U.S. history, or Beards' Game of Thrones question?
Those are serious categories?
Those are all serious questions. Yep. Only serious categories around here.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. 2 o'clock, the program comes your way with Soren Petro. Thursday night football tonight, that is 49ers and Seahawks.
I never mentioned this on the show, I forget, but Thursday night football, I'm out at the Hollywood Casino up north, me and Dylan hanging out, watching some TNF. So if you want to come through and say hi or grab I don't know if we have koozies or what we've got right now, but we'll be up there hanging out tonight.
49ers and Seahawks.
Scouting the Seahawks.
This is
That's not awful.
Yeah, not a lot. I mean, it'd be better if, like, Debo were playing for the 49ers. Otherwise known as the first week of fantasy football playoffs, probably.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I feel bad for my brother.
Nobody cares.
He's in the playoffs. And
mark yourself on that one, Beards, because the out of context Jason going, I feel bad for my brother, nobody cares, it's going to sound a lot crueler than it was in context.
And tomorrow it's going to sound great around 1:45.
Sure will.
Feel bad for my brother. Nobody cares. Jerk. Move on. He made the playoffs, right? But on his team, 2 of the guys that helped to get to the playoffs, Deebo Samuel and Dameon Pierce, both out this week. You get to the playoffs and, like, 2 guys that helped you get there can't even play. And the Deebo might be one that's, going to be a while for the 49ers. They'll have to figure some things out with that. Brock Purdy going to have to be a little bit better without Deebo to throw the ball to, let him make some plays. Oh, don't worry, though, because Christian McCaffrey can do those things as well.
So you're big on the Seahawks tonight? Want to hammer the Seahawks, whatever that line is?
I've been very good in Seahawk games, which, by the way, was the most bet game last week, Seattle -3.5 against the Panthers. Like most lopsided money that came in, because everywhere you read, Seahawks -3.5. Panthers, new quarterback, whatever it is, going across.
I think somebody on our predictions picked the Panthers, actually. I don't remember who it was.
Really?
Who's that idiot?
I don't remember.
Oh, you know what? No, I think it might have been, maybe it was Dravetta. Somebody did, because it was basically your logic of, like, I don't know. I think it was Adam. I think he said, when I see a line I don't understand, I just take the opposite. And, and it works. It's the only thing that works.
And the public did not take the opposite.
Adam, did you take the Panthers last week? Adam doesn't remember either.
So he didn't.
Find out at 2.
Idiot.
Thanks, Adam.
Who takes the Panthers when they're on cross country? Getting only 3.5. It's dumb. That is definitely one of those on principle bets. You know what? On principle alone, the fact that this thing is sitting at 3.5 and it might be a pro versus Joe type game, I'm going to take the Panthers plus the points.
I'm done pretending I'm smart. You can mark that one too if you want, Beards.
I haven't started. I need to start. How do you start? Can you give me some tips just to get into the game of pretending I'm smart?
I love the Seahawks tonight.
There you go. Why? Because. Program next.